All right, 6:30, call the select board meeting to order. Please join me. Pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We move forward when we organize.
Yep. You want me to do it or you want to do it?
Well, I can do it. So we're gonna, at this time, we're gonna reorganize, since we're in a new session, for the select board. Is there any recommendations for chair?
Not me.
Are there any nominations for
Or
chair?
nominations for chair? I'll nominate myself, Glenn Sexton, for chair. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Is there another nomination for chair?
I nominate Jay Joyce for chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it then.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
And for clerk, is there a nomination for clerk?
I'll nominate Jen Silva for clerk. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6:35, you have Mr. Senecal. You have a new business folder for us?
You want to move seats to make it easier, Jack? Well, are you going to read everything then?
Sure, I don't care.
Okay.
I don't make a difference to me. I'm not fussy, you know
There's
that.
3 of those.
Oh, I have one. Okay.
Okay. And then this came in today from the fire chief. Mr. Senecal, can you just take the seat right there?
I read this in my email. Did you get a chance to read this in your email?
No.
You just want to give your name and address, please, sir, and then you can start talking to the board
Okay.
about the issue.
My name's Tom Senecal. I live at 1 Bittersweet Lane in Granby. I don't know if you have in front of you the letter I sent to Chris. You do. I don't know if all of you had a chance to read it. I'm just going to start off my comments by summarizing it and then share with you my thoughts. The letter kind of summarizes, I purchased the house a little over a year ago. At that time, did some work on my house, and then when I got to finishing the house, looked at Bittersweet Lane and the repairs that needed to be done on Bittersweet Lane. I don't think I'm the first person from Bittersweet Lane to come to the town with questions regarding the maintenance of Bittersweet Lane. I ended up talking to the town clerk and Dave DeRocher at DPW regarding the responsibility of the road. It was in severe disrepair. The town's opinion was it was the residents of Bittersweet Lane that are responsible for the repairs of the road. I looked into the legal side to try to understand, how that worked and all. One title company came back to me and said the town owns the first 150 feet abutting Bittersweet Lane, but that being said, I didn't feel it was worth my time or energy to try to understand or pursue the first 150 feet. Myself and one of the other neighbors paid for the majority of the road to be repaved after the town said that the town bared no responsibility for the repair and maintenance of the road. We spent upwards of $45,000 to fix the road, and we did. Unbeknownst to me, there was an island at the end of Bittersweet Lane where Bittersweet Lane meets West Street. And I have a hand-drawn diagram here. Oh, you actually have pictures as well. This is just a hand-drawn diagram of the end of Bittersweet and the location of the island that I'm talking about. Sorry for the messiness. My error in judgment in that island, when the town said they bear no responsibility for the repair of Bittersweet Lane, they said it's all up to you. I said, fine. We started repairing the road. We repaired the road. We actually widened the entrance of the road on both the side where that mailbox is and the entrance on the other side of the island. By the mailbox, it's been widened 4 feet from its original width and paved the road. When I got to the island, there was an old tree stump there from an old tree that was probably 2 or 3 feet in diameter, and weeds and rocks. So under the impression that it was quote-unquote our responsibility for the road, we tried to improve the island by building the picture in front of you, which is the stone wall. Unbeknownst to me, apparently Dave DeRocher from the DPW approached my contractor, unbeknownst to me, and made a comment prior to the wall being built that it might be too close to the road. Neither my contractor nor Dave mentioned anything to me. I asked Dave if he identified himself as the head of the DPW, and he said no. Hence the reason why the contractor probably never said anything to me, because Dave didn't identify himself as a representative of the town. So we finished the wall, and probably a week after the wall was complete, I received a letter from Dave, and I think it was copied to the Board of Selectmen, about its location too close to the road, and two, I forgot the language used, a minor collector area that it needed to be set back more than 10 feet. I spent significant resources on the road and the wall. I think the wall is significantly improved the beautification of the area, although the picture, I just stopped doing everything to it once I heard that the town wanted me to take it down. And I'm waiting until hearing if that's truly what it is before I do anything else with that island. I'm hoping that we can do something other than take it down, as I've driven around Granby since then and noticed I'm not the only resident with, albeit it's not on my property technically, I'm not the only resident with stone walls much closer to the road than that stone wall is. In fact, on Cold Hill, there's at least 5 residences with stone walls, and I have pictures that are within a foot of the road. And I'm just trying to understand the town's concern about its location. I've offered in my letter a suggestion of putting up reflective arrows on the curve prior to the curve to indicate the road curves there. I think my diagram depicts it fairly enough to say that that island really isn't on the curve. It's at the end of the curve. You actually have to start turning the other way when you get to that island.
Did you get a copy or see this report from our fire chief?
No, that just came in today.
Here, I've got mine, I can,
Okay.
that's where I have
Can I grab
those.
my glasses? I can't see.
This is what-
I just want to see the picture. Yeah, there's a tree stump there. Okay.
If you,
I can take the time to read it. Do you
Yeah,
want
go
to summarize it to me or read it? Want me to read
you
it?
can just go ahead and
Okay.
read it, so you don't misinterpret anything.
Chris, another copy of that?
I read it already, I had an email.
All I had was,
I didn't have any
all I had
pictures.
was the original.
I didn't have any pictures, I just got it on email.
true. Okay.
Oh, that, I generally run over it with the chair, that's why I keep it up here versus getting it under the table. See, Trish, I told you.
So would you like me to respond to the letter?
If you'd like.
My attorney sent Dave DeRocher an email indicating our intent of paving the road at least 3 or 4 weeks before we pave the road. I'm not sure it was my responsibility to call the fire department, but we did contact the town and asked if there was any objection to us paving the road in writing. I had several conversations verbally, so as far as responding or telling the fire department before we did it, I'm not sure, because it was quote-unquote, do what you want, it's your private road, we don't care, we did. One. Two, we widened the road, and the picture that I was just shown shows a tree stump on that island, albeit it is to the left of the entrance. There was a tree stump there, not impeding it, but certainly in the center of the island, well before I even moved there. In fact, that tree doesn't even exist. That's an extremely old picture. I did, the letter from the fire department is definitely factually correct, in the sense that our conversation, I was definitely very visibly upset. I have pictures of the damage done to the road, which after going through asking the town, you can imagine how I felt, going to the town, asking the town to help with the maintenance of the road, and them saying, no, it's your problem, and then to have the road ripped up by the fire truck that came. Yeah, I was upset, to say the least.
Can we see the damage?
There's some of it there. Jen, can I have the video? Some of it was damage to my driveway as well as the road, so the truck actually pulled into my driveway. You have your iPad? Forgot it. It's okay. Forgot it.
Last Friday, when I initially read this,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
last Friday when I read your letter,
Yeah.
I was the one that asked the fire chief if he has any issues getting by there in case of an emergency.
I figured it was someone from the town
Yeah, it was
asking.
me.
I totally understand. Totally understand. It was a hot day. The contractor had told me, don't turn your wheels on the road while it's hot. Just drive straight. He told all the neighbors, it's a private road, no one to worry about it. I get he was doing what he was told. I was just visibly upset because we had to pay for it and the damage was done to the road. I think that's kind of water under the bridge at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that health, safety, and welfare of the people, that an emergency vehicle can get there.
I understand.
That's our primary concern.
I have a video of the tire tracks. The only one thing I disagree with, and I'll admit, I wasn't there watching the fire truck pull up, but what I do have is a video of the tire tracks making the corner tight. Not wide, tight. And I didn't understand why I only saw tight tire tracks in the road and not wide ones.
one of the
I notice he's here, maybe he can explain that better than I,
He
but
can explain, but I can tell you one of the things I did ask him to make sure that the largest vehicle the town owns can get through there, and please take in consideration snowfall pushback on the road.
Can I ask if that was ever done before the stone wall was there? Was it ever tested before the stone wall? Because the road is 4 feet wider. And Kevin Marion from Marion Excavating couldn't make it tonight. He said he would like to have come, but he was upset as well when he heard that I was coming here tonight. And he said, Tom, I widened the road by 4 feet from what it was. So the fact that the road is paved now and there's an island up, it feels like, I don't know the right word, feels disingenuous that all of a sudden the property's improved and now we want the wall down. When I asked why he came from that direction, and I get it, that's the direction he would come in the case of emergency, he then left to go back towards Cold Hill and straight out across West Street from Bittersweet Lane. And granted, it is probably shorter coming up West Street from the fire department. I don't know how much longer, and I know in a case of emergency, seconds matter. But he had to make a few turns, yeah. But I also think in the wintertime, you talk about snowbanks, you can ask whoever plows the town, they do one pass. And let me tell you, the opening that they have in the winter is a lot narrower than the road was. So
That was my concern with the size of the vehicle. If it could make it through at this time of the year, even if it had to run over some dirt or something, how can it get to somebody in emergency if the snowbanks are 2, 3, 4 feet high?
And I widened the road, so they wouldn't have been able to get there in the winter in years past, because they only do one pass with a plow, which is narrower than the wide, because the road wasn't that wide, because it was dirt, and it was kind of like rocks on the side. So the fact that the entrance is actually wider now is better than what it used to be.
Do you want to respond to anything, Chief Mitchell?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah, I'm just saying, do you want to
yeah, I
respond?
can respond to something.
I have a couple questions, Mr. Sinclair,
Sure.
beforehand. So you keep on, Tom?
Yeah.
Tom, you keep on saying that you widen the road, okay?
The entrance, let me
The
clarify
entrance.
that, the entrance.
Okay, so my question is, just looking at where your island is and the old island that was there before, what is the distance from where the old island was to the side of where like the yard is? Has that increased?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying, can you point it on the map, show me the distance you're talking
So
about?
you keep on referring that the road is 4 feet wide.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that it's 4 feet wide over here or here, either way.
So the entrance from Bittersweet Lane going into West Street near Cold Hill has been widened 2 or 3 feet, and
Okay.
this entrance has been widened 4 feet.
So this side is.
So this
4
is the direction of the fire truck coming up West Street and turning right onto Bittersweet Lane. That's been widened 4 feet. Pavement, plus as you look at the pictures, there's still dirt between the new widened road and the actual stone wall.
So I guess my question is, what was the previous distance from?
I don't know off the top of my
That's
head.
what I'm wondering, is it actually wider?
Kevin Marion, he did the paving, I don't know the exact distance.
That's the only thing I'm wondering, if it's just because you refer to it being 4 feet wider, and I'm not disputing that, I'm just asking the
Yeah.
distance, from side to side where the island is that actually
So
wider?
the actual stone wall is on a footprint smaller than the original island. It didn't take up the whole island, evidenced by the dirt, well, not evidenced by, but there's still dirt on the outskirts of the island. So it's hard to say with, the road deteriorated so bad. It used to be a paved road, the trash trucks go up there. We've actually put our trash on West Street now to avoid those heavy trucks going up there, because they turn their wheels in a standing still position. That road turned into potholes and dirt. It used to be pavement, but because of the weight of the trucks and the turning of the wheels, it ripped it apart. So to say what the actual measurement was, it was dirt and gravel. And there was a kind of a side bank of heavier gravel as it got pushed to the side. So it's really hard to say what the exact measurement was. But when Kevin Marion paved it, he took proximity of where the road was and widened it by 4 feet in general. I don't have exact measurements.
So what you believe is that where the stone wall is now, it's less, it's taking up less space than what the original island did?
In my opinion, yes. Look, I don't know the laws and rules, and the letter stated that it should have been set back 10 feet from West Street. I don't know if the town owns the first 150 feet of Bittersweet Lane. I haven't pursued that. I didn't want to waste money and go down that road to try to find out if the town owned it. But if there's first 10 feet is not the town, after 10 feet it is not the town's land, whose land is it? Does the town own to the center of the road? The research that I did is Joseph Skinner deeded the road to the abutters of the land, and the abutters of the road would share in the maintenance of the road. And as far as I can tell, the town owns from, if I don't own that island, who does? The town. And if you go down Bittersweet Lane, the first 150 feet down Bittersweet Lane is a telephone pole. And the deed that I uncovered indicated that the town owned it. Again, I'm not pursuing that. I was just trying to beautify the island and open the entranceway and improve it. Little did I know that I was causing a problem.
Okay, here's a question that I have. Nobody's going to really know who owns what without a surveyor and the assessor's maps, to be perfectly honest. We
Yeah,
just
I know.
guess.
I've asked for private records. They don't have any.
Oh, I don't know, you can go to the assessor's office.
I did.
Oh, you did, oh, okay.
I did. And they have no
Is
records.
there a way that the road could be widened and allow the island to stay with no objections of our fire and police department?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
They have to answer that. So when you say widened,
We have to make sure the vehicles can get through in case of an emergency. whether
understand.
it's Fire or
I understand.
police. And I know
well,
the
police, they should have no problem.
They have no problem.
turning on that
The
road.
biggest truck we have is.
So I'm just curious, is the bigger truck for bigger fires? Is the
No,
bigger
it's
truck?
catching your water you don't have. The bigger truck is the tanker. Without that one.
That house is going to be burned down before the fire truck gets there anyway.
Yeah,
It's so
because you
old.
get the water. That's why that one has to be there.
Okay. And Cold Hill is not an option?
No, not, in a first response, the fastest the time is the only real option. Because the town would be liable if we told people to go the longer way to get somewhere and somebody actually was hurt, injured, or whatever else. So that's why I've driven by and I've seen the island, it looks nice and all that. The concern I have is, we're looking at some way that we can try to appease both. If there's a resident has some land that is willing to give up to make it wider for the road.
That's the lane, so referring to the diagram.
I'm looking at your diagram, yeah.
Yeah, so see how it says Cold Hill Island?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
option.
I'm sorry, I read that wrong. See where the arrows are?
Yeah,
Where
option
West
one.
Street?
Option
Yeah,
number
option one. I think that land is the town's. So when you say with some people willing to give up the land, that whole land, from what I've uncovered, going down Bittersweet, is the town's land. You can carve out that whole corner and be able to get up that. I don't think there's anyone you're gonna, if you go to the town and find out on the deeds, you're gonna find what I found, that no one owns that land or the town does.
What do you think? We'll table this until we get the records and find out who owns what.
Oh, yeah, definitely, we need more information.
More information for you. I don't want to take anything apart that we don't have to.
That's why I paused, because I was hoping to get to a
Let's
resolution.
us talk to our assessors and try and get maps and see who owns what where. We can talk to the highway department and the fire chief, and we'll get input back to them. And when we get input back from them, we'll
Okay.
send you a letter.
Okay.
Because there's no immediate hurry. It's not like it's
I
winter time
agree.
or anything like
I
that.
agree.
Make a decision.
Can, I don't know if the fire chief wanted to speak,
You're welcome to, John. Come on up.
it seemed when I came out of my house that he took a tight corner. I don't see where the tire tracks on the video, which is on my phone, I'm happy to share, seemed like the tire tracks took that corner very tight and not as wide as he probably could have taken it. And I don't understand why he couldn't have taken the corner wider, because there's still dirt before the wall, and there's no tire tracks near the dirt nor the wall on the pavement. All the tire tracks that ripped up the pavement are closer to the mailbox.
Tell you what, Chief Mitchell, respond.
Pictures again? The pictures go.
Tom's pictures, I didn't get
So as indicated, I was asked if the stone wall that was placed at Cold Hill and Bittersweet would be an impediment to fire response. To determine that, I needed to take our largest vehicle with the widest turning radius, which is our tanker, to go down to that area to conduct some trials and tests to see what would occur. I tried to take it from various approaches, considering how responders who come from the station to that location would take that corner. One of the reasons why it was taken so tight was I was also testing how, like I said, a lesser experienced firefighter might take it, but also there was a car coming in the other direction, which kind of forced me back into my lane. I started to take it wide to go into the opposite lane, and there was a car coming in the opposite direction. So either way, that is a realistic possibility. The concern that I have from a firefighting perspective is the stone wall is something that was new that we were not told about, and it is on a, as much as, and Mr. Seneca, I appreciate your situation, but the private way is still a right-of-way because it allows for access to all of those residences. And that caused an impediment for us to be able to respond quickly. That stone wall, had we not been told about it, it's not an area that I personally go down frequently, but The rest of the fire department who drives and responds to that location is familiar with the flat land that was there before, with the exception of the stump. So we had known from experience driving that location that we would have a little bit of extra turning room with that flat area without the stone wall. Now add snow onto it in the wintertime and it's plowed, blocking that stone wall, depending on how bad the snow is, we don't see it, we're going to strike it and potentially damage a piece of town property. Those are the concerns that I have.
Okay, a question for you.
Yes.
If unfortunately we had a fire tonight on Bittersweet Lane, can you get the tanker down there?
After a few couple of turns and back and forths, yes.
And how much a delay would that be?
It depends on who's driving and how many times they need to stop to back up and make that turn. I did it in just one stop, back up and turn. I'm an experienced driver-operator. Newer members who, for example, if I have one of my newer members who just got qualified on that apparatus, were to drive it out tonight for an emergency and it was their first emergency, chances are they would need a few times to make that turn with that truck. I'm not opposed to the stone wall, just the fact that it was put up without our knowing and without our ability to let our driver operators understand the situation.
Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
You have pumper trucks.
Yes.
Pumper trucks carry how much water on them?
1,000 gallons of water.
Can a pumper truck make that turn?
Yes, it can, but it's not a matter of the water size. It's a matter of the type of chassis that the truck is. The fire trucks that we have are what we call a cab-over wheel, and the turning radius is much smaller and can turn a lot better. The tanker is on a commercial chassis, so it's just like any truck you see driving down the road right now. The cab is behind it, so the turning radiuses are considerably larger.
I think what I'm trying to say is if you're responding a pumper truck,
Yes.
that could get to the scene of the fire while we're waiting for the tanker truck to arrive. I'm just asking that question.
That's typically what would happen in an emergency situation. The first truck would go and we'd be waiting on the tanker. The problem becomes a couple of things. A little bit of fire knowledge. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds. There is minutes that will be taken to go all the way down from the station 202 to Pleasant Street to Cold Hill. You're talking minutes. And we only carry 1,000 gallons of water on the initial truck. That's time that we have to use to wait for that other truck. Additionally, it's not typical and standard for residents to dictate how the fire department responds to calls. That's not in.
We're not saying that.
No, I
We're not
understand.
saying that, Chief. All I'm saying is, can a pumper with water on board be able to get to those other
Yes.
houses?
And then how much time does the 1,000 gallons going to last if you had to use it full force? Will the tanker get there in time to fill before
No.
it runs out?
Absolutely not. The tank holds 1,000 gallons of water. Okay, if we had, and the way we fight fire, the quick, easy way to say it is big fire, big water. If we have a structure that's even significantly involved, we're going to be pulling a 2.5-inch line, which flows a lot more water. We may be using our deck gun, which is a 500 gallons per minute, at a 1,500 gallon per minute pump. There's a lot of factors. If we're waiting, we're going to run out of water before we get there with only 1,000 gallons.
What do you think, Glenn?
I just think we need more information as far as, listen to what the chief is saying. There's a concern for making the turn. So that's, we gotta take that at face value. But also find out, as you talked about before, logistics, is there other options that we have? As Tom spoke about the possible, you said widening the road. Is that a possibility? Is it the town property that they're referring to? And if it's possible to even widen the road, is that going to make a difference
Yeah.
in that particular area? So those are the things that need to be,
Yeah, and I'm not opposed, again, I just want to make it clear, I'm not opposed to the wall, just the fact that it was put up there without the fact of our knowing, and it did change our response. I still have to go through training with all of our driver operators, which is going to be a lengthy period because I don't see them all consistently. So this is just going to be a situation where it may, for a period of time, affect how we operate down that one road.
So, Chief, on this picture here, it looks like, you're awfully close to the wall.
I am, and so what Mr. Seneca was referring to when I went down Cold Hill and left from that direction, after realizing that there had been some tear up to the road, I didn't see the need to continue doing that, and that was the direction I was facing. Again, trials and tests to determine how the wall was going to affect anything. That portion is tight, not that it wasn't before, but the wall did make a difference in how we were able to get by. And I didn't realize until I had gotten back to the station that I actually scraped along that wall with the rear tires.
And I would
So,
imagine previously, because that area was flat, it didn't really matter, because if you went up on the grass or whatever was there, you went up on it. Wasn't a wall there.
yeah, worst case scenario, if it did any ruts or anything to that island, we would have just contacted the DPW and they would have assisted us in taking care of it. The wall made a difference in
You have any
that
questions,
situation.
Jennifer?
I actually do. Before the wall went up, Chief, approximately how much of the island do you think the trucks might have taken up during a turn? Quarter, a half of it?
I don't want to say a quarter or a half, just because it's difficult to judge. I can tell you we probably would have used 5 feet,
5 feet of
6
it?
feet, something in that area, and that would have been just enough to make that turn to get down that road.
Okay. I mean, I've never driven a fire truck, so I have no idea what they turn like. I had driven by the property today, and I noticed the road did look wider, so I didn't know if the 4 feet had been added already, what part of that island you would have taken up. So it sounds like maybe another foot and a half might.
The picture's deceiving. I really can't say for sure. I can only speak as to what we did know before, and then the unknown when I went up there to go test it. You know, again, I mean, we're the fire department. We'll adapt. We'll do what we need to do. But just understand that, again, people that don't know or expect that, I just get concerned that it may get clipped and it may damage town property.
But I would say that you could use that in any unfamiliar circumstance. There's always that
No,
risk.
absolutely, but what I refer to is the fact that this is new, added to what we already knew before.
Oh, yeah, and I understand that. I definitely do. Yeah, I definitely would like to get more information on this before we do anything.
1 second. Before we move on, do we want to have Mr. DeRozier go out and repair the damage to the asphalt that was done by the fire truck?
I would think that would be
Yes.
appropriate.
Is that okay with you?
Couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I would like our highway department to go out and repair the damage done to the
I appreciate that. I called the
pavement.
Marians to come back. He was supposed to come back Saturday and fix it, but that'd be great if you would. I appreciate that.
Our truck did it, we should fix it.
Right.
Okay?
He said he's going to have to heat it
Yeah.
to repack it and roll it. I
Okay,
appreciate that.
but,
Thank you.
okay.
I-
And you said you wanted to,
Yeah, I got a couple of
Okay.
comments. So, 3 things.
Thank you, Chief.
If you,
Thank you, Chief.
I would propose that if the biggest concern is the safety issue with the turn coming off of West Street onto Bittersweet Lane, you can drive over my front lawn if you have to. If there's a fire, I could care less about my lawn. If you're going to say that the wall is the issue and we need to move the wall because, and I've talked to people on the street that have lived there for years, there's never been a fire. If there's a fire tomorrow, drive across my front lawn. It shouldn't stop you at all. If we're talking about the parameters of the road, you know, this is kind of crazy to be saying, let's take the wall down. Drive over my front yard, 1. 2. When he was leaving, yes, he did mark up and he couldn't get out. would have been no different. There was a mailbox. We moved the mailbox to put the mailbox,
The one in
see the
the
mailbox in the picture?
Yeah.
That mailbox used to be closer to my house, or closer than the stone wall was, so if he tried to go through there before the wall, he'd have taken the mailbox out.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. If that mailbox was relocated,
It's supposed to go back. The neighbors are asking me to put the mailbox back to, we're gonna cantilever it out over the island so it's parallel or perpendicular with the edge of the island. It doesn't stick out over the edge of the island, but you can certainly, for the post office, they don't want to have to reach. I get that, so we're going to build it to post office specifications, so
Oh,
it's
it's a mail
the right
kiosk.
height.
It's a mail kiosk.
yeah.
Excuse me?
It's a mail kiosk, not just a single mailbox.
Yeah.
Correct. There's
Okay.
6 mailboxes.
Okay, it's a mail kiosk,
Yeah.
okay.
So those were 2 points I wanted to make. And the third point I want to make is back to the plowing in the wintertime. It is worse getting in and out of that road in the winter. It is 1 car width that the town plows out of courtesy and out of safety. I get that. But when there's an accumulation of snow, the snow is going to be more preventative of that fire truck getting down the road under the old conditions because of the only 1 width of the plow than it is under the existing conditions because we widened the road and you can now actually see the definition of the road and plow it wider. So I would propose that the safety hazard existed all along in the wintertime. It didn't exist now. And again, I'm offering, drive over my front lawn if you have to.
Any more discussion?
I don't have any more questions.
I
Jen?
have no more questions right now, no.
I'll give that back to Mr. Senecal.
You can,
Let us get the highway department superintendent out there, and we'll try and find out who owns what. And from looking at your map that you did here and the pictures that I have on my computer, if the mailbox is located right here, or I'm assuming it is,
that's where it is right now.
then if we move the mailbox somewhere else, then the truck could come right through here.
You know, I was watching the shadow.
So let me just, actually, in defense of the fire department,
Yeah.
the mailbox was originally right across from my house on the island facing my house. The
Okay.
neighbors want me to put it back, the post office wants me to put it back.
Okay.
If removing this becomes, I guess you could, I could pitch the land. I was gonna put rocks on the side of the road to prevent erosion from coming into West Street. That was my original plan, but if the solution to this is to don't put rocks there so the fire truck can make a tighter turn, no problem, take the mailbox out, pitch that so it's perfectly level, so it's flat, it won't be pavement, but it could be gravel or something so it doesn't erode, and the truck could take a tighter turn and go up that road.
Well, since our highway department supervisor is also our stormwater management individual, he would have a better idea of the topographical area and where the water's gonna drain to. So let's get him out there to take a look at this. And if moving the mailbox over here and taking some of this out will alleviate all the issues, depending on who owns this now. Because I can't give away something that we don't own.
It's yours. I think it's yours, so you can give it away. Just so you know, this is about 4 or 5 feet higher than this. This is severely pitched towards West Street. It's always been gravel and dirt, so anytime it rains, all the gravel and dirt goes down on West Street. And I wanted to stop this from going down on West Street too, George. It won't happen here anymore because this is pavement, but it possibly could here, which is why I was gonna put stone and plantings in here. But if you're telling me that's the solution to the fire truck, I'll find an alternative.
I'm not
solution.
making it, I'm just looking
I
at the
understand.
comment.
I understand.
And Mr. DeRocher is our civil engineer
Understand.
and supervisor and stormwater management individual. So I believe getting Dave out there to take a look at it, what do you think? Let's get Dave out there, and then we'll get back to you by mail. If we can do it by mail, if we gotta come back in, we'll give you a date.
Can you have Dave contact me so I can meet him and talk through? He's not here tonight, and I can express my side of the conversation anyway.
When we relay the message to Mr. DeRocher, he will contact you, and you'll both be available at the same time.
Thank you very much.
Plus, I think I want him to put stakes out
Yeah.
exactly where our right-of-way is,
That's what I was considering too. That's why I wanted to know if we're gonna say, where is the land?
but have him actually stake it.
Stake it, right?
It's gotta be found out.
And I'll talk to Mr. Drosha, but the plantings in that island now, I'm cognizant of the visibility around that too. The idea was to keep low plantings for visibility reasons.
The
Those
line
are,
of sight for traffic.
yeah, for line of sight, I understand that. So that's just a weed farm right now, waiting to,
Then you'll deal with our police chief when that happens.
Thank you, sir.
thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much, appreciate it.
Okay. Uh-oh. get the stuff ordered and get it repaired. Chief Wishart, how were you tonight?
Good. Is that calling me?
That's calling you. I didn't read anything, so I don't know why you're here. To be honest with
Let's do a share.
you. Is it-
Hopefully I won't need it.
Steel?
All right.
Yeah, I guess. That's about all I see.
Good.
Don't rush.
Okay. So, as the board is aware, we've been working towards filling some positions, kind of in step 2 of a multi-step plan. Back in, I think it was April, the Police Advisory Board had come up with a list of names of potential people to promote from part-time to full-time over the next, if there were any positions that came up in the next 12 months. The first person that they had selected was appointed. She'll be going to the academy next week. And the second piece of that plan from the Police Advisory Board was to appoint Zach Gilly. So that's where we are now. I can tell you a little bit about Zach. He's been a part-time officer with us since 2016. You can, online, you can
No, you're right
kick
on.
me or something.
You're right on,
He was in our auxiliary before that for about a year, and starting in 2015. A little bit about Zach. He's going to ACC for criminal justice. He's lived in town most of, if not all of his life.
Chief. All my life.
He currently lives here with his fiancee. They're going to get married relatively soon. He is obviously well-liked, well-respected by both, not just the people at the police department, but the people in town as well. Zach runs our basketball camps in the summer, so he's responsible for anywhere from 50 to 110 kids,
Yeah.
over just a couple of weeks. We put a lot of faith in him. We put a lot of trust in him. He, since he started working part-time here, he's basically worked full-time hours. He conducts himself very professionally. He's honest. He's smart. We're lucky to have him, and he's going to make a great addition to our full-time staff, should you choose to put him there.
I thought when you came in the last time, we were all done with the full-timers. You gave up some part-timers for a full-time position.
That was the first part of the situation. We had, and I have to be careful how I speak about this position, because we have somebody who's been out for a long time, and this position would be
In addition,
not in addition to that. No, that's what I can say. So, we are right now in a situation where we would have the same amount of coverage on the road. With Kendall Hill going to the academy, if you were to approve Zach's position, he would be in that position.
how about the same amount on the payroll?
What's that?
How about the same amount on the payroll?
Well, the one thing that I can't say is when that specific situation will be completely ended. I can't say that because I don't know. None of us can. However, at some point, we need to start moving forward. It's been years.
Any idea when they think that it's going to be adjusted? Because it's not budgeted for another police officer, right?
The normal time frame for the process is anywhere between 3 to 5 months.
Mhm.
And that started, I believe, April. I think we started the process April. We filed the paperwork April, I think it was. March, April.
I think, let me think about that. Yeah, I think that's probably about right, yeah.
March, April. So 3 to 5 months will take you probably, maybe up to August potentially.
Well, I just
How-
said May, June, July, August, September, 5 months.
I said started March, April,
Okay.
whatever.
Whatever.
Wait, I'll give you September, okay? The concern I have is that with us not filling it with a body, that shift for that person out on long-term illness, is that we pay overtime to fill that shift. We will save because we will be paying straight time
So
instead of...
cost-benefit analysis says if we do this, we'll...
There will be a savings, because you won't be filling it with overtime shifts, you'll be filling it with straight time. So you say, instead of paying 2.5 times for the 8 hours, you'll be paying double time for the 8 hours. So you're going to save some money there.
One of the things too, Jay, to your point that I didn't get a chance to mention was that in my initial budget, we had talked about there would be another part-time, we would have 6 part-time officers. And at some point in the future, if we lost somebody through attrition, we wouldn't fill it. That's another kind of scenario that's played out a little bit differently, that was unforeseeable. So we actually had a part-timer leave. So since the last time we spoke, which we didn't expect to happen, so when we talk about that cost-benefit analysis, we're down 1 more part-time spot. That's 1 more situation every week that's going to go to overtime. It's 1 less person to call for shifts. And the reality of it is, we have to start getting ahead of this because in the not so near future, as I told the board then, you know, part-time officers are the way that they're trained and the way that we have to keep them up is changing. And so the wave of the future, not so distant future, is not that we have great part-timers, and I hope that we keep our part-timers. I would foresee that in the rest of my career, if they're willing to stay, they should stay. But training new ones is going to be, you know, a much different situation. And so I think the town needs to, as I said before, the town needs to start moving towards that. And, you know, we've got at least 2 or 3 people in the room who are within a 5-year window of retirement. And to have 2 or 3 people in a 10-person full-time situation leave quickly, especially in a situation where you have to replace them with full-time people,
Right.
we better have our ducks in a row. And I think this is step 2 of getting our ducks in a row.
As long as Mr. Martin has it in his budget for FY '20, he's going to do the cost benefit analysis. I, speaking for myself, don't have an issue with it because I know we have to send the people to the academy and come back and be trained.
The chief and I did talk about his budget for FY20.
That's why I'm asking.
We did talk about the impacts by going forward with this. And we feel at this point in time, with that 3 to 5 month window, that he will be able to absorb the additional cost.
I'm also worried about your cost that you have to absorb of the healthcare.
I'm pretty well set on that. I'm pretty
Okay.
well set on that.
To that point, he's already paying for it. Zach gets health care as a part-timer.
Oh, okay.
Hope I just share something you didn't share.
No.
Any more discussion?
What would be the start date, Chief?
As soon as possible. Sarge?
Here.
He's kissing babies. Thursday?
Thursday.
We
6th.
start on Thursday?
No, ask Mr. Martin if it's okay to know the week.
Can we start at Sunday? Start of a pay period?
Can we start on Thursday?
I believe the schedule says Thursday. Mr. Martin.
Who's the scheduler?
The babysitter?
It would be more beneficial for us, the way that our schedule fell. We have 1 person going away to the academy. We're trying to get ahead of this. If we could do it Thursday without too much interruption, that would be ideal. If that doesn't work, Chris, then we can do what we have to do, but that would be ideal for us.
When does she go to the academy?
She starts, what's that? Monday, but she's off.
So you can't use that, I'm sorry.
She's off this week, though.
Just because she's off this week,
trying to
you
be budget conscious.
said you have to coordinate it with the academy. That's not a fair statement at this point to say that.
We're hoping to,
Just because she's on vacation,
What would it cost overtime if you didn't start on the 6th?
it's going, I can't say 100%, but I would say probably yes. And one of the things to keep in mind too is, we are down 4 or 5 part-timers and part-time officers in the last year and a half.
Yeah, but when we gave you the full timer, you gave them up.
Yeah, absolutely. So my point though is that's less people to call for shifts too.
Right.
So we're in this transitional period, and so it's a little bit of give and
Right.
take, and
Because if you don't have a part-time covering, it becomes an overtime position.
it does. And so my long-term goal would be to have sufficient coverage that we don't have to fill every single shift when somebody's out. So when someone takes a vacation day, we don't have to fill it with overtime. It would be a much more efficient budget in terms of providing a service and not paying overtime for basic levels of service.
What would be a shift coverage, day or night?
Say again, I'm sorry?
What shifts would he be covering, day or night?
I think right now, most of you, are they all days?
Thursday, Friday would be second shift, and then the rest days.
And that, once the two of them come back from the academy, we have a bunch of situations where there's more than 2 people on the road. So if somebody takes a day off, we don't necessarily have to fill that. Whereas right now, we are, especially when she goes to the academy, we're bare minimum. Glenn takes a day off, somebody has to fill Glenn.
Right.
Jen takes a day off, somebody fills Jen. In the better scenario, there's 4 of you, and one's out, you don't replace
recover.
it.
We still have the coverage.
Or you have the choice whether you want to replace it depending on the time of day, the call volume of that day, what you expect, things like that. It's a much more efficient way to budget.
Well,
Are those tasers still holstered, or are they pointed to me yet?
They're still hosted right now.
It just sounds like you're planning a proper staffing pattern.
Trying to.
I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Zach Gilly to a full-time position, effective June 6, 2019.
Seconded.
Okay, seconded by Glenn. Any more discussion? How many ayes?
Aye.
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 Unanimous on the ayes. No sense going on.
All right, let me ask you this question, Chief. 1 year probation? 1 year probation?
Hold on to that. Hold on. Yes.
That's
Yes.
standard.
No, in the past, we've waived it. We waived it for Mr. Lawson when he became a dispatcher.
Because he was already there.
I didn't, what was the wave change? I didn't hear that.
You waived for Jeff Lawson the 1 year probation because he had been doing it for so long.
You said the amount of days that he had if you added them up together.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yes. Yes, it was, it's waived in so much as that it's contractual. There's contractual language saying that you would take a proration of his time to see what it was that was
Exactly.
shorted. He was well over the year, so yes.
And he doesn't have any time yet.
It was waived.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Zach, congratulations.
Coming down, you know it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
See, now I know why everybody was here. Mr. Scanlon is next on our agenda.
Mr. Scanlon. Here you go, Jen. Glenn, can I get the stuff from the fire department on Bittersweet?
Do you want these pictures too?
Yeah, please.
You want one of the drawings that he brought in? Oh, you got it.
Got one. Handing those down. Seeing how Mr. Scanlon wasn't bringing in copies, we made copies of the audit report for you. Had to put the dig in, sorry.
The new wave. Electronic, you know.
Cost savings for him, not for us.
I don't know where anyone went. That's it.
Oh, but they're all here for the appointment, that's
Thought they were
it.
here for the audit.
See how important you are? You got an empty room. One person, one individual.
And everybody with Chris.
Yeah, so for those who don't know me, I'm Tom Scanlon. I'm the managing partner at Scanlon Associates. We did the audit for the town of Granby. The audit, can't say enough good things about the town. That's financial accountability. I don't know, did Chris give you the financial statement?
No.
packet? Oh, he didn't.
No.
I'm waiting for the bound copies.
I sent you a PDF.
Mark, no.
Just a couple remarks about him is the town received an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. So that's a testament to the financial staff that will pay dividends as you go onto the bond market. It's the first thing they look at, any grants. So the town should be commended for that. Also, your financial policies and your reserves and the way you go about establishing your budget and the way you set it and how your actuals come in, the free cash you generate and your reserves. I encourage to keep with that policy. Try not to.
Is there a minimum on our stabilization funds that would endanger us and get lowering the bond rating? A dollar figure estimated?
So the general rule of thumb, 10% of your budget is very sound, very good. When you get below 10%, you start becoming average. You get towards 5%, you're below average. You get to 15%, that seems to be the magic mark for the AAA rating. You're well above that 15%.
We're not that well above it.
You're above it.
We're above it, I will agree, but not that well.
But it's...
I don't want to fall out of 15 into 10 is where I'm going.
Yeah, correct. I mean, your policies that you have in place, you're very conservative on your budget side, on your revenue side, especially with your market-based motor vehicle excise. That's strictly market-based. You're very conservative in that approach, and it's helping generate free cash. And if you look at the way your free cash is generated, you have a nice mix across your budget from appropriations and from revenue side. And then you're using it very soundly. You're not throwing it back into operations. In 18, you used $1.4 million to fund a capital project. And there's not too many towns that can do that. So I would encourage your practices to stay on course.
We don't borrow for operating expenses.
No, that's a few towns that do.
I know that, we don't.
So you have the management letter, which is, as we go through and do our audits, we design our audit procedures, certain control deficiencies, we'll call them, or operation efficiencies that we see that we point out. Again, we're coming from an audit perspective, so probably never going to have a clean management letter. I've never actually had one before in my life. But the first one, implementation of GASB's, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board's more accounting standards coming out. We encourage the town to become familiar with them and to keep that unmodified opinion going forward. The biggest one, I know me and Chris have talked about these, is GASB 84's fiduciary activities, mainly with the student activity funds, the way they're going to be reported on your financial statements. They don't come out until 2020, so you got a couple of years. And also leases are the next, probably biggest GASB. Those are the two that's going to affect the town going forward.
You and I talked about leases, though, and I really don't see where those lease ones apply at this point in time.
I hope they don't.
Because they talk about capital leases, and for us to capitalize anything, it's usually anything above $10,000.
Yeah, and they just kind of tweaked the definition of capital in there. And that's what's kind of worrying myself on particularly.
Because, I look at it as if we're going to lease, say, a highway truck, a cruiser, fire truck, things like that, those would have to be put in there. But for copiers and things like that, our copiers, if we bought it, it's maybe $5,000 at the most, which to me is not capital, that's an expense item.
Yeah, I mean, those are things we're going to have to talk about until 2021.
Well, we may have to talk about it by then. For the simple reason, as far as leases go, we're getting to the point, since we're a green community, we're going to have to start getting hybrid vehicles. Well, hybrid vehicles aren't the best. They're still working their way up.
Yeah.
So is it going to, the state police have already gone to leases. They're not buying them. So looking at it from that standpoint, if it's good enough for the state police, should it something we'd be considering because the potential of the vehicles themselves. But I realize, Mr. Martin, putting them back into shape and them being in a mess of a condition is not going to do us any good either.
But the issue is, Jay, it's not the fact that to lease or not to lease, is the accounting.
Right.
And it can become a little bit more of a nightmare locally when basically you have a part-time person. doing the accounting. The state has multiple full-timers, so
Yes,
they just assign that task to one person, it's done. Okay, the smaller communities are the ones that have a problem because they don't have the excess staff with excess hours to be able to add additional time onto them.
Well, it's the same as with a planner and conservation, we just don't have it.
Yes, yes, so. And we can make the auditor do it. Right.
That's what I'm afraid of, that's why I put it in here. The second point, we noticed on your financial statements, OPEB, I know we beat it to death over the past few years. It's basically the promises you made to your employees that you're going to pay your health insurance at some point in time. It's a very real liability, how it's calculated. We can argue about that all day, and discount rates and trends, healthcare trends. The fact is, you did establish an OPEB trust, which you contributed $175,018. I think the value at June 3rd is right below $400,000, I believe. So you're starting a trust. We're recommending adopting an investment policy. We're seeing, really talking to actuaries, they use a discount rate about 3.5%. Discount rates can play havoc on the liability itself. For instance, the liability on your financial statements. Is $21 million. I don't know if that's the truth of it all, but it's not zero either. And it's again how you're really tackling OPEB, which a trust is the first thing, and how you're funding it and getting to a point in time when you're going to be paying out of the trust. For instance, you may have a goal in mind to get it to $10 million, and then when you get to $10 million, anyone that retires after that, their health insurance is going to come out of that trust. But it's really developing that investment policy associated with your funding mechanism on it.
I'll be long retired by the time it hits $10 million. I think you'll be retired too, Tom.
You never know. You never know. Again, when you get into the bond market and you're sitting down with your bond rating companies, these are the things they're going to want to see. Yes, you do have a trust where you are, but your discount rate's X amount, but where's your funding policy on it? And what's your plans on funding it? So. And then for prior years, you know, you had some issues with reconciling with the school department in prior years. I think those issues are behind you. Going forward, you funded the deficits in school lunch and school choice.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about them having deficits because we need to balance these budgets because the other departments have to balance them as well. Our attendance at the school is 16% out of district. So if they go up, the deficit's probably going to go up more.
I think, well, you have one deficit that's in, I'm coming from a financial school, school lunch, and it's
Right.
around, well, it's on the last page here.
Yep.
God, it's about 13,000.
Yeah. When I read it, it said that the school fund had a deficit fund balance in its ledger of $35,000 as well.
On a cash basis.
Right.
But you got the accruals of May and June claims that come in.
Okay.
So it is an accounts receivable, and I believe it came in November of 2018.
So yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I think I spelled it out there on page 6. You know, it said school lunch had a cash deficit of $34,452, which the state penalizes you for on a cash
They
deficit.
take it out of the free cash coming back.
Correct, correct. But from accounting, you know, accountants can make deficits go away with accruals.
Right.
But they are legitimate accruals. They are earned in fiscal year 18, or May and June. They were a little late in the submittal process. And they came in November of 2018, roughly about 21,000. So from a GAAP standpoint of view, you have a deficit of 13,515. Again, really monitoring that going forward. You can see it's 13,000 compared to, you know, 167, 107 it's been in prior years. But really keeping an eye on it.
Well, the school gave us a presentation that cost over $11,000 to educate a student here in Granby. And School of Choice has only given us $5,000. And if we're getting that close to that deficit margin now, how much more School of Choice can they take before the residents have to start paying the freight for all the kids coming in?
School choice is a
Kind of
different
lost me on
animal.
that one.
Yeah.
That's a
Okay.
different one, Jay.
Oh, I just was here when he said this.
Yeah, but school choice, I think currently has about a $225,000 balance in it. That's off the top of my head, real quick.
Okay. Okay.
Certainly not what's in that report, but yes.
No,
Yes.
but you know what I'm
Okay.
trying to say.
I
From
understand.
day to day, I don't want to go any forward.
We are.
You know, school
We're in
choice,
agreement, right, Adam?
school choice has a healthy balance in it.
Right, for right now.
Circuit breaker has a healthy balance in it. I think it's due to the efforts of Adam, to be honest with you, because the former business manager, I think, had an issue with being able to keep their
In filing for the stuff on time.
filing and properly recording,
Okay.
and use of said funds to offset the
Okay.
budget, okay? School lunch is always going to be an issue. I believe the school committee has been working on reviewing the budget put in by Chartwells on a more tighter basis and is monitoring it on a monthly basis now.
So I actually just met with our food service director today, and the last month or so, Steve and I have been communicating about the balance. I want to say it's still about a $6,000 deficit, I would say, as of last week, but we're still waiting on some reimbursements. Don't quote me on any amounts, but I think the oversight has gotten a lot better, which has given us the ability to get our hands on this and
Well,
keep
I-
these deficits as
Mr.
low as
Chairman.
possible.
Yes.
You know, the business manager and myself have been meeting at least monthly, and recently weekly in terms of our cash projections for school lunch as an example. So they're doing the best right now.
Good.
And I would commend Adam, when he first came in, he found out the school was using 2-year-old enrollment to make their contracts with Chartwell, and they were in declining enrollment, correct, Adam? So they were ordering more lunches than they could possibly sell,
Yeah.
making the town buy.
We made a few changes to food service specifically, that's kind of grown the revenue. There's still some work to be done, but I knew coming in that was a very touchy subject for the town, so we've focused on that to make sure we don't go down the road of $160,000 plus deficit ever again. So,
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's big when I said, I think your problems are behind you, you know, the monitoring and, I mean, you can disagree on how you fund certain things, but the monitoring's still there and the balancing's going on. I just want to make sure you're not reading our report incorrectly. So the way we lay the management report out is we put the prior year comment first. So these are from 6/30/17, those balances.
Correct.
And then we do an update.
For the 18 audit.
Yeah, so the only deficit at June 30th, 18 is the school lunch fund. And again, it's monitoring that going forward. And do your best trying to eliminate that deficit at June 30th, 18. It sounds like you would, I mean, from my perspective, 13,000, 6,000 you're talking about is a lot better. I think it's manageable to fund it at the end of the year.
Just when I start seeing stuff getting close to the deficit, I'm saying, well, what are we going
Absolutely.
to do to eliminate the deficit?
Absolutely. And again, I think in prior years, it's a miscommunication on issues between balances, different average between the school records and the town records. But they are balanced going forward. The biggest thing is monitoring the deficits. I think that's it on the prior year. Then the only going forward, which I probably is DESE is requiring to have the student activity audits every 3 years. And they're kind of enforcing that, which is a separate engagement outside of the financial audit.
That's an outside audit, right?
Yes.
Every 3 years, but
Correct.
within those 3 years, we should be doing it in.
Correct.
Internally.
Yeah. They're starting to force that a little more,
Yeah.
kind of like the end of year report. They're asking you for your reports, so that's something to have in the back of your head going forward.
So when would the next one be due?
Or you could really do it any time. I don't know if they've contacted you yet. You can kind of wait to get contacted. You can do a 6/30/19 if you wanted to, or 6/30/20. It really depends on your comfort level.
So that's another thing that Steve and I have been working closely, so maybe after we clean up this year, next year might be one of those times where we just say, hey, come in if you want to and kind of clean our books up and we'll start.
And that's what I think.
My goal is to have it ready for 19, June 30, 19.
Yeah, because I think that variance was, I think Chris made the journal entry on the GO that we'd recommended, right, at the end of.
I received your audit adjustment, yes.
Yes. No matter how long.
Sometimes I'm bad on that, you know, don't let that get out. That's kind of where we stand from the audit standpoint. So overall, kind of, your financial reporting wise, you're in really good shape, and keep forward with your kind of policies and procedures on your reserves and how you're funding your budget.
Yeah, like Chris says, he's getting close to that mark of 15%.
Yeah, you definitely, it's helping you in the bond market,
Right.
and how you view it from on the outside world.
Right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Any questions throughout the year? Don't have any concerns? No, don't hesitate to contact our office. You know, if you got concerned about certain areas you want us to look at, that's part of the auditing course.
Well, thank you, Tom.
I'm not going to say anything. I'll be good. I'll be good.
It's usually not like you, Chris, on it.
You can call, but good luck in getting a hold of Mr. Scanlon.
And thank you, Chris, as well, because a lot of this
that was-
information speaks to the work you do.
Summer, I got
also
preoccupied with
Adam
some
and Steve.
personal
Yep.
issues at the home. We good?
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
There we go, Tom.
Thank you.
It's like losing the hot seat next. Yep.
You're up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris had asked, I don't know, maybe several weeks ago anyways, to get together with Chief Wishart as a member of the Park Oversight Board to discuss going over the rules and regulations of the parks. So I sat down with Chief Wishart, I think last week, and got some input from him, particularly as it relates to the bylaw review. He's on a bylaw review committee. I guess they're going over all the bylaws. I'm not sure when that's going to become effective. But anyways, we came up with some prospective rules. Now, I know from past history, many of these are, or some of these at least, are already in effect. It may not be enforced, but they're in effect. And we used to have signage down there, and I think it was vandalized over the years. It's never been replaced. And so whether or not they're still in effect, I thought perhaps the board would want to reiterate them all anyways, maybe take a new vote on them, whatever. The process under Mass General Laws allows you to make, as park commissioners, make rules governing the park, and it gives up to a $200 fine for violations of the rules. And just going over some of the problems we've had down there, the two biggest issues have been trash and dogs. And the trash, the problem, talking to Dave DeRocher, they'd empty the trash. 2 days later, the barrels would be full again, quite often with household waste, TVs, and things. So we thought about going to a carry-in, carry-out policy, removing the barrels. I think it hasn't been in effect long enough to see whether it's been effective or not, but I know it's causing a problem for a lot of people. So my suggestion would be that if, in fact, the article on the annual town meeting to hire some people to work at the park passes, that perhaps we could put the barrels back and make one of their responsibilities to empty them more often on a timely basis to keep. What happens is the barrels get full, they overfull, the animals get into them, the trash gets spread around, and the park gets messy.
Well, I guess,
Yeah, good.
if we go back to that, Lou, is there a better type of barrel that we can put out there where it's limited? You know, you see the barrels have the covers on them, and, you know, the opening might be like 8 inches, so like only so much stuff can be put inside.
That's certainly a possibility, and
that's
might be a
locked.
good idea,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's one of the things we want to look at with dog waste, because, you know, they were filling a regular trash barrel up with dog waste. You can imagine what that must be like to have to empty for the highway department. Yeah, it's unhealthy and everything. And I understand now the latest thing is people have been leaving dog waste in the sandy cans. So, you know, I don't know what you do about that, but a lot of people aren't picking it up. The place, you know, and it's a health hazard, especially around the ball fields and the playground. People let their dogs go, they mess, they leave it there, and it's a big issue. We had a group, day before Memorial Day, went down and cleaned the park up. Volunteers did a nice job, and their comment was they couldn't believe how much dog waste there was in the park.
How is the signage in the park on what you can do, what you can't do?
There is none, Jen. That's one of the problems that we noticed, and once the rules are reaffirmed, our recommendation would be to put up signage again, relative to what the rules are. And I think it's just a matter of getting people in a different habit. They've been doing what they want down there for a period of time, and it just got out of hand. So I think most people will comply once they get the habit of it anyways. But so what we recommended, I know eventually the bylaw is going to call for a leash law. At this point, it's a control law, or a dog's supposed to be under owner's control. That could be voice or leash. We're going to recommend north of the tree line, all dogs be leashed. We have had some issues there where kids would go up to a dog and the owner would yell, "Oh, don't touch the dog, he doesn't like kids." Well, then why is he running around the playground loose? You know, it doesn't make any sense, but.
You plan on marking that area off?
Yeah, well, I think we could spell out, for now, north of the tree line. If they go up into the woods and want to let their dogs run, I personally don't have a problem with that. However, the new bylaw is going to prevent that. As I understand it, they have to be leashed. So, but for the time being, I would at least like from the tree line north.
Given how we got to tell the people where north of this tree line is?
I thought it was pretty plain, but we could always mark it, I guess, if we had to.
Geographically challenged.
Yeah, geographically.
I have no idea.
Okay. Maybe we could have to come up with a better description and somehow for it, but, or even just say except for wooded areas, or except for the trail areas, or whatever, I don't know, we come up with some wording. The other rule we'd like to see put in is that the owners are in fact responsible for removing the dog waste, obviously. Brown Ellison, dogs are prevented from being down there, as are horses.
But there's no signs that says it.
At this time, no, there's not. That's, again, signage is what we got to work on. Horses at Dufresne's are restricted to the horse ring area and the trails. That's always been, I think. Again, no alcohol allowed to park without permit from the board. That's been historical. Camping's not allowed with permission of the board. Same thing. No open fires without permission from the fire chief and the board. No drones allowed. Chief Wishart brought that up, that potentially could become a problem without permit from the board. Obviously, no swimming in the pond. Planting or cutting of trees, shrubs, plants, flowers, etc., without permission of the board is prohibited. The household trash, that's a state law. We don't have to really be concerned with that. Chief Wishart asked for a 5-mile-an-hour speed limit in the park. It's already posted 5. Snowmobiles be allowed only when we had put adequate snow cover. I met with our committee today, and the recommendation was to make that 3 inches. So
I was going to say,
what's adequate, right? ATVs, dirt bikes prohibited without permit. Motor vehicles restricted to established roadways. I don't know if you were down at the park at all this spring, but the field where we parked during Charter Day was an absolute mess. Everyone had been driving there. There were ruts. It was a real mess. So we'd like to somehow, at least during the winter and spring, prohibit cars from going there. Maybe it be a snow fencing or some type of restriction to keep them onto the roadways anyways, and keep that from happening.
Caution tape right across and they can't drive through.
Yeah.
It's as simple as what.
And if we make it a rule that they're restricted to the roadways and there's some teeth in it, that the police department could do something about. And I know the board had voted no hunting in any of the parks. Our question was, could we allow it in the Partika area around Forge Pond? It's very limited use to anyone else. So during those few weeks, like a deer season or whatever, it used to be a fairly popular spot to hunt. But again, that's up to whatever you guys want to do.
Because in all my notes here, everything was about a sign. How do
Yep.
people know?
Right. And then once I think the board affirms the rules, then we can have the signs made. In fact, someone gave me today at our meeting it's like, what's the place over in Chicopee that had, I'm sorry? Job Corps. Mass Corps it's called, and they do signs for municipalities relatively inexpensively, so. But we should have, both sides should be posted with the rules.
And the main entrance is when you're coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I think is that we need to clarify as far as when they have to be on leash. I think it's easier that way. Maybe it is all of non-wooded areas, as you said.
Yeah, the only reason I would hesitate to that is there's a wooded area near the pavilion.
Yep.
That we would not want dogs around. You know, right where the pavilion is between there and Kendall Street is all
Right.
wooded. I would think you'd want to keep the dogs leashed in that area.
Okay.
That's where one of the
Well, what
wells
else?
is too, isn't it?
Maybe
Yeah.
it's the trails, as you spoke to earlier.
The trail area,
Trail
yeah.
areas.
Yeah, and-
Makes it easy.
yeah.
Now, these changes, they're in the general bylaw committee now?
No. General bylaws are different. These are park regulations. These are totally under your control. Doesn't need town approval. It's all, the park commissioners can make the rules and set a penalty up to $200. So these are entirely yours. Now, the bylaws, maybe, they should be continuity or consistency between the two. You don't obviously want,
Well, that's why I brought them up. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to have a conflict.
and that's why, with the dogs being leashed, the new bylaw, I understand, is going to require them to be leashed totally.
And there's drones everywhere, bylaws as well.
Okay, that may have been why Al brought it up, yeah.
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 We want to accept these tonight,
Take them on their advisement.
okay?
And they, like I said, a lot of these I think are already in effect. It's just that it's been so long that it wouldn't hurt to, I don't think anyone's changed them since way back when Wayne Sedlak was around. So it might be a good idea just to reaffirm them, that's all.
Just like to get a copy of the current regulations as printed, and then,
Do you have those?
I think there's a set of regulations, right, Kathy?
Oh, there is, okay. Are they close to these, Kathy, do you remember?
Yep.
Okay,
So, that's all, I just want to be able to compare the two,
sure.
before we go forward, that's all.
And then if we're going to fund all the signage, we'll do it after 1 July on
Yeah,
FY
we won't be ready before then, I'm sure, because you've got to vote these and then,
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
I just, if you'd like an update on what's going on down there, the Sam Gould, do you remember him, the Eagle Scout that came in? He met with us a couple times. We went back and forth on a location, and we finally agreed on a spot that wouldn't interfere with any other activities there. So he came in actually to our meeting today. I went down with him, he showed me where the course was gonna be, that was okay. He raised the money. He's gonna install as of Friday and Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, something like that. 6th and 7th, he said, or 7th and 8th?
Yeah,
8th and 9th, something like that. And it's gonna start near the tractor pull, you know, they have the concrete posts, the closest to the tree line. We're gonna run that tree line to the trail entrance that's closest to Kendall. Then it's gonna go up into the trails, circle back down and end back at that post again, so. Now, one of the things we mentioned today is single use isn't an issue, but if they hold tournaments there, which they may at some point want to do, there should be some type of fee attached through and permitting through the board, like all other park uses. I mean, you don't want to have 50 people down there running a event, I wouldn't think, without some type of,
Has to be controlled.
yeah, control, yeah. The other thing, we've been meeting with the group that raised money for the dog park, that $25,000 donation that they have. We're in a process, I got a couple quotes on fencing, and out of 5, only 2 responded. They're ballpark within $40 of each other. However, talking to Chris, if the town does that, it's got to be prevailing wage. It's going to increase the cost considerably. So as long as, what Chris said, he'd be fine with them filing a liability waiver and having them contract it, have it done as a donation to the town. It would save some money.
So instead of them donating the money, donating
the actual
fence.
Yeah. Friday, I met with the young lady who passed away, her parents, about a memorial, and they want to pay for this, a plaque on a boulder with a small bust of her near the park, in memory of type of thing. We met with Dave DeRoche's, we went down, he had some boulders, they found a couple that might work. So that's in the process too, but there won't be any expense to the town whatsoever with that. They're gonna take care of that.
How are we going to protect the bust?
That was my concern. They don't seem to be concerned about that. It's gonna be bolted onto the boulder, so. They're not gonna move the boulder, I can tell you that.
Okay, no, that would just be my concern. Is
Yeah, mine,
vandalism
well, that was one of the concerns I had too, but they didn't seem to think it would be an issue, so. The other thing, one of the things they recommended was a shelter of some site, so that people could sit there in the shade while their dogs were running. Pathfinder's been contacted, they're gonna put us on their list to build it. A local concrete, Rick Utley, has agreed to do the work for free, so we just have to get the concrete, pour a pad, and have Pathfinder. Most of the material is going to be donated by a lumber yard up in Albany that is affiliated with the family up there, so that's in the works. That probably won't be till fall at some point, so.
And then the electrical work is?
Electrical work has been started. It's going to be put on hold
During Charter Day?
for Charter Day. However, he's going to make it safe, because right now it's not, but everything will be safe for Charter Day, and then he'll go in and finish it all afterwards, so.
And in speaking with the electrician, we decided to put up some additional lights on the big field area to be on a timer to go off at a certain
To
time.
go off at a certain time. Jay actually sent me some information on solar lights that wouldn't need a timer and wouldn't need power.
I'm
So,
just saying, we were looking at lights anyways to make
yeah,
sure.
particularly in light of the incident that was
The
just
recent
taken-
conviction
recent
that-
conviction down there, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's another issue that we want to look at is, right now, the park says closed dusk to dawn. And that's, I don't think, probably number one, enforced, number two, practical to enforce necessarily, without gating the place. And what we talked about today at our meeting is looking into gates that would lock and unlock with a timer, so that we could set it for 9 o'clock at night or whatever, and then it would open automatically at 6. Having someone do it isn't practical, because we tried it with the police department before. They get tied up, they wouldn't open the gate, people would get mad. I mean, it just doesn't work.
But as far as the lights go, anything we should put in there should be LED. Might pay more money.
We were talking to LED.
Okay, well, I'll just make that statement.
No, we were.
Okay. And the second part of it is, you don't have to put in super expensive, because when the green community comes around, if they got something better, they'll fund it. But if it's not there, they don't fund it. So you know what I'm trying to say? If we get something in there, we can use green community funds to upgrade it and use less energy. But we can't put anything in there if something doesn't exist, because something doesn't exist is not using any energy.
Makes
Well, I
sense.
think we just looking to put something adequate in there for lighting.
Yeah, adequate lighting is, what I'm saying is they want to spread their money out and put in more lighting. Then we can come back with green community and maybe upgrade it, depending on what the cost comes and like that. But the solar ones I sent Lou, they were pretty inexpensive, because he had asked.
Yeah, you're talking like $30, $35 or something. That was,
Yeah.
I don't know what the lumens were on it.
1,100 or something like that.
I don't know, I can't, what does that relate to? I don't know. It's a street light?
No, that's less than a street light.
Yeah.
We decided, I think, to leave the poles, at least on the Kendall Street side, for lighting,
Okay.
instead of removing them. The
And-
wires will be underground, but the poles will
The
still be.
wires, I was going to ask how the wires going to be there, they're going to be solar.
No, the wires, well, if we put solar lighting up, we won't need it, but if it's gonna be powered, the power's right out there at the bottom, base of the pole, they just have to run up the pole, which is, Bruce said was not a, not a big deal to do. And I think that's,
The only other thing we're talking about doing is putting some cameras in there too.
Yes.
yeah, particularly with relative to trash dumping and issues like they had resolved last week.
The,
Right.
like the deer cameras that are portable and you can put up, and they don't require power except for battery,
We're looking more towards video, I think,
directly into the police station, well, through the cable.
yeah,
Internet accessible.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay. That's what I meant by cable.
yeah.
Well, we could use DSL, but I don't know if there's any phone lines out there or not.
Used to be.
See, I've never seen a phone out there, that's why.
Used to be what? Phone, there's a phone there,
Is there a phone?
in the kitchen.
I never.
Used to only be call in. They couldn't call out.
Oh, okay. Then we could use DSL, we wouldn't have to pay for the cable to come in.
Yeah, no, there's telephone there, in the kitchen.
I think we had cable in there at one point too.
That I'm not aware of.
Yeah,
We discontinued that.
Yeah, I think we did at one point. I don't remember why it was there, but
I think it was for the camera.
was it?
And I think that went right back to the police station at that point.
I don't recall. That was, the camera wasn't there when I was there. At least it didn't go back to the PD. Just to listening to your Cold Hill bittersweet situation, if I recall, that tree stump they're talking about, when that was taken down, that was a big issue as to ownership and everything. It was, so you might be something back in your records about that. And I'm going back probably, well, it was probably before you were here.
That was done before I was here, so.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
back when Glessman was here, maybe. But there was a big issue there, I know, about who was gonna pay for it, ownership, where the lines were, and I don't remember how it was resolved, but I remember it being an issue that might have been probably before Dave, back when Steve Zabin was highway
Well,
superintendent.
that's what I'm saying. Have David go out there, take his transit, shoot some grades and things, and stake it, just so we all can have an idea of what we're looking at this point in time, you know? And then move forward from there.
Because worst case scenario, that big a slope, we'd have to put some type of wall if we're going to push it back.
On the right, you mean?
Yeah.
If it's town property, it solves 90% of the problem.
I understand that. We can do what we want, when we want, well, we got the funds to do it with.
Yeah. Yep.
But we'll find that out from Dave when he stakes it out for whose is what.
So it's a private road, but the town plows it?
We do it just like we do Forge Pond, okay? Forge Pond is A and
Right.
B are both
For
private
safety,
ways.
public safety.
But we have to do it so the ambulance and public safety can get in there in case of an emergency.
But we don't do like Tromke Ave, right?
Yeah, we plow, we plow Tromke.
We do, okay.
Yeah, because we almost lost one of Wayne's trucks
Oh,
coming over there. That
Into the brook?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Lou.
Thank you.
Oh, just one other thing, I almost forgot. We are realizing the money is tight, obviously, for park improvements. We're gonna start a nonprofit for Friends of Granby's Parks or whatever, and raise some money privately, hopefully. At least to have money that we can use for matching grants because there's a lot of grant money out there for parks, but you got to have matching funds, and it,
Right.
you know, timing isn't always right to come to the town and say, hey, quick, we need, can you commit to $5,000 matching funds when, you know, we don't have a town meeting or something, so we're going to start organizing that within the month anyways. And
One of the things you might want to look at, there's a lot of grant money out there with no matching funds for the arts. They can bring you money in. Whether you do concerts or whatever you want, if you do them in the park, they do them in Belchertown all the time. That's how they get some of their money that they fund over.
Well, one of the things we're going to work on is a 5-year plan for the park, because I think, Glenn, even you mentioned it one time, we got to have some direction as to where we're heading. And it's not just Dufresne's, we kind of forget sometimes we got Brown Ellison, and now we have the Partika property too, which is probably our most underused resource that we
No,
have.
Cooley, I would say, is the most underused.
The mosquitoes use it.
That's it.
One of the, we put in for a grant, as you know, a trails grant, and we should hear within a week, this week or next week, whether we're going to get that or not. I feel pretty confident we will, but there's another round of there's like 3 different grant programs the state runs for parks. And the group that I talked to that helped us out with writing the trails grant, and it's going to do the trail work up there, does a lot of work in wetlands, creating, you know, bridging and things like that. They have some really nice stuff that I can show you at some point. But one of the things I'd like to do at the Forge Pond property is bridge between the, how do I say it, the School Street, Bachelor Street side over to the other side, because there's a stream that runs through there. So you can't walk from this side of the pond to the other side of the pond. There's wetlands in between. The only way to get over there is by boat. So it would make it much more usable for people. We could put a walking trail in there eventually and everything, but you got that pond in the middle.
I think we're going to have to resolve the Forest Pond Dam issue before we do anything else.
Yeah, that's obviously another issue, but even so, we own the property. So whether there's a pond there or a swamp there, we still own that other side that's high and dry.
But then how much water drains out? If the dam goes away, you may not have a swamp there.
Well, there was always water there.
There's always water.
Yeah, back if you look at the historical maps,
Okay.
the pond itself was very small, but Bachelor Brook runs through there.
Right.
So,
It comes from Belchertown.
yeah, so you're always going to have a wetland issue. Boston Brook comes in from one side, and there's another brook that goes out the other side, but you're always going to have those wetlands there. It's never going to be, you're always going to have to cross some type of water to get to that other side, no matter what they do. But, you know, I got some real concerns if they drain that thing, that it's going to be a nightmare. I really think,
You have to wait for the report.
yeah, I know, but I'm just thinking that, you know, potential issues there are going to be pretty serious with mosquitoes and, you know, but that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My
Appreciate it.
pleasure. And good luck. Good luck, Jen. Good luck to the board.
Thank you.
We will see you around.
Take care.
Did I miss anything? Okay.
You want to go to department reports?
Yeah, does anybody have the police department one for the appointment?
The police department paperwork for the appointment?
No.
I may have it here.
Yeah, you got it here.
Thank you.
Okay, department reports. I've already read them all. If there's anybody that would like to, I will pass it down and they can take a look at anyone that they would like.
I've read them.
Okay. Could we correspondence too? I just want to go through that myself. Thank you.
I'll make a motion, we accept the departmental reports.
I'll second.
Any more discussion concerning the department reports? Yes, no. So how many ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous on the ayes for the department reports. Okay. You put this over here. And to be signed, do you want to go over these since, or do you just want to put out for all of them?
Oh, you can just put them right out for now.
Okay. We have warrant 71. Oh, we'll do another on this one. 72. 73.
That's it.
That's it. Warrant 71, 72, and 73 to pay the town's bill. I've already gone through them all. Does anybody like to see them before we send them off for signature?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
You can make a motion to,
I was gonna let you do that.
oh, I don't know. I'll make a motion that we approve and sign maintenance warrants fiscal year 19, number 71, 72, and 73.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
Okay, any more discussion? None? How many ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous on the ayes for the signing of the warrants.
You have the departmental report folder.
Department report folder? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, abatement warrants, 71, 72, 73. Since I got the correspondence folder in front of me, let's do that one and get rid of it. I've read all the correspondence. I only got 2 comments, and then I'll open up to everybody else. The first one, when I read, was that special permit denial to Borrego. There's been some solar bylaws going on, because a lot of towns are getting sued. We're having other meetings at the state and PDPC. And one of the things that's been discovered, our current solar bylaws do not meet the green community requirements. So that's one thing we're gonna have to address, just to give everybody the heads up. What I'd recommend for that is, since the green community is pretty much done by the energy committee, let them draft them up for you, because they're gonna be general and zoning. We don't wanna do anybody else's work, but if you guys wanna handle it, fine, but we already.
It's up to the planning board, it's up to me.
No, I'm just putting it forward. That is one of the things, because
Yeah.
we have an application in there now for a Green Community Award, and I don't want to endanger that.
Did-
And we also have the past 2.
Did our bylaws meet that prior?
You want the honest truth? The answer is no. I went back in the records, and the town paid PVPC to write the initial Green Community bylaws, and they gave them to the planning board, and they were acceptable, except on 28 March of 2011, our planning board modified them, which voided them. Just happened to find it, because through these different meetings they've been having lately, they're spelling out left, right, everything, dotting the i's and crossing the t's on them all. And then from being on the planning board with you, I didn't remember some of the stuff that they were saying that had to be in there. So I did go back and look on my own, and that's what I found.
Yeah,
The bylaws
before my time.
aren't voided, they're just not 100%
Well,
compliant.
that's what I said.
No, you said voided.
Oh, then I misspoke. And the only other thing is when I did the correspondence on the Department of Housing and Community Development, I did mention at the last select board meeting after meetings with Lieutenant Governor that grants would be coming out. The grants are out already, and the application time frame is between July and August. So if that's something we want to look forward to, we're going to do it pretty quick. So I'll pass this on to anybody that wants to look through anything else like that. I should have said incomplete and unvoided.
Thank you.
Yep. Glad you caught me. So I'll put that on the agenda for the Energy Committee the next time to try and get the language correctly. Right, and we'll send it, we're gonna send it to this board, and then this board can decide what they want to do for the next board, just like we did with the Economic Development Committee.
I've got copies, thank you.
The only other piece of correspondence in here was from the Economic Development Committee to this board. If this board wants to, we could forward it on to the appropriate committees or other boards. I would recommend that we each get a copy of it and look it over between now and the next select board meeting, and then decide if, what, and when we want to forward on to anything.
Makes sense.
Can you send Kathy a copy of the Economic Development Committee report to everybody again? And then what we'll do is, we'll have it on our agenda for the 17th, and then we'll address them all there, if the board here wants to do anything with them. Okay. Which one you got set up next year, Victoria?
Victor's licenses,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll let you read them. I was here a whole year, I learned about that already.
Nope, that's okay. Okay, the first one is for Rockwell Amusements, New England Rides and Amusements. This is for the upcoming Charter Days at Dufresne Park. Next one is Burnett's Polish Meats Products and Deli LLC, 895 Meadow Street, Chicopee, Mass. Again, this is for a food cart at the Charter Days. Then we have Dave Pandolfi doing business as the Kettle Corner, 61 Birchwood Ave, Long Meadow, Mass. Again, for Charter Day. We have Poppy's Fresh Onion Rings Lemonade, 21 Main Street, Cummington, Mass. This is also for Charter Day. Poppy's Fresh Onion Rings Fries, 21 Main Street, Cummington, Mass. Again for Charter Day. Poppy's Fresh Burritos, 21 Main Street in Cummington, also for Charter Day. Poppy's Fresh Onion Rings, 21 Main Street, Cummington, for Charter Days. Poppy's Fresh Onion Rings Ice Cream, 21 Main Street, Cummington, for Charter Day. Karen J. Van Wagner, Borrowed Talents, Utter Desertion, 12 Birch Road out of Long Meadow. This is also for Charter Days, I believe. And Mark Finelli's Traveling Amusement Park, Inc., 41 Caspian Way, Fitch, Mass. And I believe this is for Charter Day also.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve all the Charter Day licenses?
I'll make a motion that we approve the common vic license as read.
Okay.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
And how many yeas?
Aye.
Aye. Army, I'm using yeas and nays.
We can use yay if you want, Jay.
Well, I'm just so used to doing it the Army way. I mean, after 41 years, it's kind of hard to change. Yeah, I know, I can hear you laughing over there. Just like other people, I put down like 30 May 2019, they go, no, that's wrong. It's May the 30th of 2019.
That's fine.
I get criticized. And I park my car by the Coit too, so I get considered about that.
No, you're not as bad as our fire chief.
Well, I used to be.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Got a ways to go.
But over time, I've changed. You know what changed that the most? Learning different languages.
Did it?
Yes. The accent went away, the more languages you had to learn. That's where you were going.
Oh, you couldn't have a southern drawl when you're learning how to speak French and Saudi and all those other...
No, give yourself away real quick. And that's one of the things they checked you for when you first went in, and you weren't allowed to go to class until you get rid of the accent.
I've got an entertainment license before we go to the next item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
You want to read this one too?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind.
And we also have one entertainment license to award. It's to New England Rides and Amusements, which is the carnival that is done for Charter Days, June 14th through the 16th.
Do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll make a motion that we approve the entertainment license as read.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And I have one.
Thank you. You want to hand that? Okay.
Yep. This is coming down.
Do you want your copy, or?
I've got my copy, and I think Jen already printed one out
Okay.
too for herself. So she got an email like I did. And we'll let Mr. Martin give his recommendation for the special town meeting, the annual town meeting.
Okay. Okay, annual and special town meeting is next week, next Monday, starting at 7 PM at the high school. And as we normally do, we decide who is going to be presenting what articles. I'm going to do the special town meeting one first. First article is to transfer from snow and ice expenses $50,000 for the purpose of funding the selectmen's expense budget for 2019. Is there a board member who would like to present that article?
I'll present it.
Does the board want to know why we're requesting this, or?
I would,
Okay.
just for,
The $50,000 is, as you well know, probably not, Jen, is that we have this water main project that we're planning from the South Valley line up to at least Amber Street
yeah.
as the first phase. This, because Mass DOT is going to be going out to bid probably July or August, we have to get the engineering done to add the water line to the existing road improvement designs.
Okay.
Okay? So we had a contract with an engineer this fiscal year. It's a $50,000 contract that we had to do in order to continue going forward with being able to do the work along with the road improvements.
Okay.
Okay,
So we
so,
don't have to go back later.
yes.
Okay.
And by doing so, it's only going to cost us about $50,000 to do all the work, where if we waited, it was going to cost us probably 3 times that much to do the work.
Makes
One-
sense.
One of the other things that Mr. Martin may want to mention, if we didn't have that engineering report, we couldn't have put in for the grant for almost $2 million to continue the project. Because if you can't justify it, you don't show the need.
You won't qualify
You
then?
won't qualify, because it's all competitive.
All right, so, Jay, were you,
Yeah.
seeing how it's the water project?
Yeah, that's what I figured, that's why I said I'd take it, because I'm involved with that.
Article 2 is to transfer from public buildings expense $30,000 for the purpose of funding the legal expense budget for 2019. During the course of this fiscal year, we've had the ongoing saga with the Granby Bow and Gun Club, with the residents trying to get us to cease and desist anything that was cleared after 2010. That's been going back and forth. We've been to court in Boston, we've had special counsel, we've had legal expenses with ZBA, we've had legal expenses with board meetings. That's part of it. That's about maybe $10,000 to $15,000. The other had to do with, back at the beginning of the fiscal year, we had the big investigation done in the fire department. That ended up costing us about $20,000 by the time all was said and done, which
Okay.
put us in a deficit of about 30 grand right now.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And since I just happened to be the liaison in both those departments, I figured I would probably be the one that would address it, in case they have a
Sounds
question.
fair, Jay. Sounds fair.
They're not going to argue with you. You can stand up there and do them all if you want,
Well, I
sure.
think throw tomatoes too, isn't it?
My tomatoes aren't ripe yet.
They are red fire farm.
I grow my own.
A little cold for them to be ripe yet.
No, they have the hot houses.
You know what I'm saying, but if you're doing them outside, a little cold for them
Yeah.
already, yeah.
The hot houses they do.
Article 3, transfer from snow and ice personal services, $8,000 for the purpose of funding the cemetery personal services. Normally, I would try and get a cemetery commissioner to do it. I will probably ask Kevin Brooks to see if he's going to be present. If not, then usually the backup has to be one of the board members in case nobody's there from the cemetery commission.
I'll do it if Kevin's not there.
Okay. And basically, this is when doing the budget, they've spent more time doing, fixing up monuments, fixing up the building. I think they've been maintaining some of the fences too, repairing them and stuff, so it's just stuff that I wasn't able to anticipate at the beginning of, or about 18 months ago, for lack of a time frame. Article 4, transfer from snow and ice personal services, the sum of $28,000 for the purpose of funding the fire department personal services budget for FY 2019. I'm going to have the fire chief present this article. I'm going to talk about 4 and 5 together. Article 5 is to transfer from ambulance retained earnings $40,000 for the purpose of funding the ambulance department personal services budget for 2019. Seems like the fire department ambulance service took a big hit this year. We've had multiple people out for long-term illnesses. One actually just retired at our last meeting at the beginning of May. He came in and retired. The other one we currently have out is out on the Family Medical Leave Act, long-term. The other issue is that we had a long-term firefighter paramedic who took a position elsewhere, so we had a large payout of his compensatory time, vacation time, accumulated
Everything he
time.
accrued?
Yeah, all the other
Okay.
good stuff that goes along with that. And also, we were having a hard time attracting part-time paramedics to cover the ambulance at night. I don't know if you remember the stories back last fall where we didn't have any coverage, things of that nature.
Yes, I am.
So what we did is we had to go to what's called a per diem paramedic. It costs us a little more to pay that person, but we're getting coverage now. So the big thing is these are things that weren't anticipated during the planning back in December of last year that we had to do in order to keep being able to provide the services that we needed to provide. So.
When our firefighters that are right away there, if they took a second shift, it was all time and a half, so the money kept going up and up and up.
Up and up.
So,
Okay.
okay. Then for the annual town meeting, Article 12 is to appropriate as offset receipts, fire permit fees in the amount of $1,640 for forest fire warden expenses. These are the burn permits that they issue once a year, usually in December. This year we collected $1,640. That is usually the fire chief who presents that article. Article 13 is to transfer from available funds the sum of $278,714 authorized under Chapter 291 of the Acts of 2004 for highway construction and improvements defined under Chapter 90 of the general laws. Dave DeRozier usually presents this article, and this is basically our annual Chapter 90 allocation that we get from the state. The state, I think, just both the House and the Senate approved the $200 million borrowing, and this should be the amount we received under that appropriation. Okay. Article 14, for the town to vote to raise and appropriate $175,000 for the purpose of funding the town's other post-employment benefits, OPEB liability. Tom Scanlon referenced this. This is basically for allowing the retirees to continue health and life benefits after retirement. And we currently have a $21 million liability that we're putting $175,000 a year towards. If you followed the true funding schedule to be fully funded, it'd be about $1.5 million we should be putting in there on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Which we don't have.
We can't.
We can't do that.
We can't do that. So this is an effort, because I believe at some point in the future, the state is going to require us to fund the liability, just like they make us fund the retirement liability right now. You know how we have like $900,000? That's based upon a set schedule that the state requires us to follow to become
I
fully
just
funded.
wonder how they think we're going to do that.
They don't care.
They don't care, they just make it back across all 351 municipalities.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
Chris, I mean, going forward too, if that's something you forecast maybe seeing, the town really needs to start planning for that.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to plan for it.
I don't know.
Actually, there's been various scenarios put out there. One, way back when they first started the requiring the funding of the pension liability, they did what was called pension obligation bonds, that you could go out and fully borrow and then pay off the bonds over a 40-year period of time. The same thing they're talking about doing with OPEB, but that's only in the initial phases. But to borrow $21 million is a big chunk of money.
Yeah.
Even if you spread it out over 40 years, even whatever. The only way we're going to be able to control that number at some point is in the future is to control the benefits that are given to someone when they retire. Instead of giving them just carte blanche, we create a $8,000 HSA account. Here you go. That's a set figure. That's all you're gonna get per year instead of having to pay the Medicare, Medic's B premium and allow you to go whenever you get a sniffle. You know, those are things that have been put out there. It's, like I said, it's still an evolving field. There's some states that are ignoring it, okay? To put it to be honest with you, if you look at what the states obligate, the state is billions for their
Sure.
OPEB liability.
New rule, not allowed to retire.
Yep.
Well, it's maybe something we should, reach out to our local rep and senator to see. I mean, there's other towns, small towns, I'm sure have the same concerns and problems that we will have.
The only ones who are doing a good effort are the Newtons,
Right. But I
the
mean,
Boston,
right.
Communities are
And the
the only ones who are
suburbs of
able to
Boston,
fully
right,
fund
but-
it. But the smaller communities, no, there's no way we'll be, ever be able to fund it, so. Article 15,
Somebody,
who wants to present Article 14? This is usually a Board of Selectmen article.
I can do it.
Okay.
I don't mind.
If you want, I can try and write a little blurb for you.
That would be great.
Okay. No, I'm not going to write blurbs for you. No.
I get newbie status, Jim.
Yes, I will write you a blurb, Jake.
you want
Okay.
two, Glenn? Or just do a blanket for everybody?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Article 15, raise and appropriate $9,000 for funding the revaluation of town property. This, if I remember right, this article occurs every 6 years, 6 to 10 years, I think it is, where they go through and do a complete revaluation of all the properties. And this is usually presented by the assessors.
Yeah, Bill Porter mentioned it 6 years the other night at the economic development.
Oh, it's close, 6 or 10.
Yeah, you were right. I'm just telling you, you're right. He mentioned it because he says they're waiting for the next assessor to come on board to help them with it.
Yep, so, okay. Article 16, to vote to raise and appropriate $52,000 for the purpose of funding the demolition of a tax foreclosure structure. I'm going to have Steve Nally, the treasurer, present this. This has to do with a property that we foreclosed on New Ludlow Road. If you drive New Ludlow Road, I'm sure you're going to know which one I'm talking about. It's the one that looks like it's ready to fall in on itself. We had to take trees down on that property because they were dangerous this year. And basically, the structure is basically a hazard to people. And we wouldn't want anybody to go in there and fall in the in-ground pool that's in there. And so we want to contract someone to come in and take the building down and put it to grade. And that was the estimate we got to do that. Article 17, raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of funding the cost of bond counsel, printing, and issuance costs for the water main project. I'm also going to have Steve Nally present that one because that is the estimate he provided to borrow the 1.6 or 1.5 million.
1.2.
No, we did 1.5, didn't we?
No, 1.2.
1.2 million for the water main project. And he's basing that on what it cost him to do the elementary school borrowing, bonding at that point in time. Article 18 is to raise and appropriate $10,000 to fund any and all costs associated with the foreclosure or collection of taxes owed on property placed in tax title in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 60. This too, I want to present, or have Steve Nally present. This is basically the legal fees that he pays out and to have a tax title attorney go forward and represent us in court to be able to take tax title properties and foreclose on them, then that we can then sell at a tax title, tax foreclosure sale.
So that's their retainer?
It's not a retainer. We get billed on a case-by-case basis.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that 10,000 could last us between 4 and 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what it is his current balance is getting down a little bit low. It's getting down below $5,000, and so what we try and do is try and keep 15 at the max and no less than 5. So
Fair enough.
Article 19, raise and appropriate $200,000 for the purpose of funding inspection, repair, and/or replacement of the town's stormwater system. This I'm going to have Dave DeRozier present. We have a lot of old stormwater culverts that are made of corrugated steel. Up on, I believe it was High Street, we had one that started to collapse. It created a sinkhole on the side of the road. So instead of burying our head in the sand and waiting till these things collapse, I want to try and make this become a annual article, to be able to go through, camera all our lines, make sure what we have, and have a plan of action of having to replace them if we need to. Instead of being reactive, I want to be proactive on the stormwater system.
Belcher Town's also being proactive on this, except they're doing $367,000 a year.
Proactivity is new for us. Let's ease us in gently.
Yes, yes. Article 20, raise and appropriate the sum of $35,930 for the purpose of funding tuition for Smith Vocational Agricultural High School students. This is I'm going to probably have the school department present. Back in the beginning of the budget process, I contacted the school and asked how many students were still going to Smith and Voc. I was told that there are still 2 students, and this is the amount for the 2 students' tuition to go to Smith Voc. They are allowed to go to Smith Vocational instead of Pathfinder if Pathfinder doesn't offer the course of study that they want to do. I think we may be able to eliminate one of these, because I think one of them was in the plumbing field. And I believe starting next fiscal year, Pathfinder will have a plumbing program. So we may be able to not have to pay one of the tuitions. And the other one, I think, was criminal justice, I believe.
One's criminal justice.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody else who was offering that at a vocational level.
Our criminal justice is currently at Smithville. That's why there's 2 students to go in there.
No, there's one. One was in one was in plumbing, I was told.
Okay, I know we voted, remember Glenn, on plumbing for Pathfinder?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is,
Right.
this year, that wasn't available at Pathfinder Plumbing. So they were able to go to Smith Folk. With Pathfinder now offering it, they're going to be put into Pathfinder.
Okay. And only criminal justice is going to Smithville?
Yes,
And there's 2 students, right?
one.
I thought there was 2.
One that I know of. Article 21, transfer from free cash $21,500 to fund the purchase of maintenance equipment for the Granby Public Schools. I'd like to have the school department present that one also. That one has to do with us separating services that they need. They want a zero-turn mower, and they also need a sander unit for their pickup truck. And those 2 items will come to $21,500. Article 22, transfer from free cash $44,904 to purchase a marked cruiser for the police department. I will have Chief Wishart present that article. That is the annual replacement of one of our cruisers. We did check with the Energy Committee. We can get a waiver for this 1 year for it not to be a hybrid. If it was going to be a hybrid, it'd be about $52,000, if I remember right.
You are correct, but we have it in writing already from Mass DOER.
So that means next year when they replace, it has to be hybrid?
Yes,
Well,
I think
I
it
would
will.
say most likely it will. We do have a project that we're working on now to let you know on. We've got 1 bond and 6 pending grants in Boston, and one of them is for the safety complex for 4 EV chargers,
Oh,
so we can defray the town's cost.
okay,
We can fill you in more later, but that's what he's leading to.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
How do you know where I was leading to?
because I'm on the Energy Committee. And the Economic Development Committee.
All right, Article 23, transfer from free cash $227,000 for the purpose of funding the purchase of a dump truck for the highway department. Dave DeRozier will be presenting that. This is to replace one of the large dump trucks. So, Article 24, transfer from free cash, $102,000, for the purpose of funding the purchase of a mini excavator for the highway department. This again will be Dave DeRozier. This mini excavator is what he is doing under the new stormwater regulations. He has to go and clean out every catch basin in town. He has about 700 plus catch basins. What he was doing before is using his vac truck to empty it. However, the vac truck isn't really made to empty out that many storm drains, because what happens is the sand is like sandblasting the metal.
Oh, so it's putting...
So it will eventually wear out the metal interior. What he has done is he bought an arm unit that basically looks like a orange, a sectioned orange. You put it on a mini excavator and you lower that in, and you just grab the material in there, pull it out,
and dump it into a
and
truck.
dump it into a truck that he can then dispose of elsewhere. He found that he can do a catch basin probably within an hour to an hour and a half, where before it would take 4 to 5 hours to do it.
So that's greatly speeding up his
Yes.
process.
Yes, so that's why this would be a good investment. If we look at the cost benefit, we're seeing anywhere from a year to a year and 3 months for a payback on this piece of equipment, so.
Just so you understand, Jen, we don't have 700 catch basins in our town, but Dave has over 700 to do, because EPA used to require to clean the catch basins once every 2 years, but now they require them when they're half full.
I did read something about that.
So he's got someone who's gonna do 3 or 4 times.
Times a year, depending on its area. Okay.
Well, depending upon how full they are when he does it this first time.
Right.
So that's the problem we're running into. And he had a lot of these that were located in our building sites that he didn't have listed as his catch basins, so he added on to those, so.
He's got a nice little GIS program that he has each catch basin numbered and the date that he did each one and what was in it. It's a real good program.
Article 25 is to transfer from free cash, $69,000, for the purpose of funding the purchase of a 1-ton dump truck for the highway department. This too will be presented by Dave DeRozier. This one is, he has a old Army surplus 1-ton dump that he uses to do patching of the roadways. Well, that's getting to the point where they can't fix it too much anymore, so he needs to replace that vehicle.
Okay.
Article 26, transfer from free cash, $700,000, for the purpose of funding the purchase of a pumper truck for the fire department. Chief Mitchell will be presenting that article. This is to replace engine number 1. That's a current large size pumper. This is to replace it with the same size pumper unit. Engine 1 has been having some issues, and it is our first response vehicle. So the fire department and the equipment committee at the fire department has reviewed specs for a replacement vehicle, and this is what they've come up with, a price to replace the large pumper unit.
What's the time frame on this replacement? Time to build?
Yes, that'll already be a year to a year and a half.
Yeah, it's gonna be out there, so be proactive.
So it's got to be ASAP, because from what I hear, that it's not in good condition.
Yes.
Yes, and you gotta wait 1 or 2 years before you can get delivery.
Yeah.
Article 27, transfer from free cash $50,000 to fund the purchase of a pickup truck for the Public Buildings Department. A board member will be presenting this. In trying to address the needs of the parks of the town and addressing the landscaping needs and the maintenance needs of the building, we need a second vehicle now.
Okay.
What I am proposing doing is our current maintenance vehicle will be basically a vehicle to move equipment to do the landscaping at Brown Allison, Dufresne's, various town buildings. And then this new vehicle will be given to the maintenance person to be able to go around and maintain the buildings.
If you want, I'll do that one because that's gonna line up with the 1.5 new employees that we're going for the park department. Any
Okay.
questions?
All right, okay. Article 28, transfer from free cash, $134,714, for purpose of funding the general purpose stabilization fund. This article, Article 29 and Article 30. Article 29 is $134,714 going into the capital needs stabilization, and Article 30 is $134,715 to go into the municipal building stabilization fund, is to take our current free cash balance that hasn't been appropriated or used for any other purpose, and to put into our stabilization funds for future use. This is usually a standard annual appropriation we do, trying to get it into a stabilization fund that then can be used over the course of a year, because if we don't use free cash by June 30th of this year, it disappears until it's recertified again, probably November, December,
Right.
which makes it unavailable for a 6-month period, but yet it's available under these stabilization fund articles. These are usually done by a Board of Selectmen member also.
These go along with keeping us above the bond rating of 15%.
The bond rating of 15%.
I'll do all three.
No, they're all three. Okay, Article 31 is to raise and appropriate $358,634 for the town's apportioned share of the fiscal year 20 budget of Pathfinder Regional Vocational Technical High School. Normally, I try and get the elected rep to present, but if he's not available, that's Billy Johnson. If he's not available, then a board member has to present.
I can be backup.
Okay, thank you. Article 32, raise and appropriate $415,050 to operate the municipal solid waste department. And that's usually a board member.
Do you want to do that, Jen, since you're already still up there?
Yeah, that's easy.
Article 33, raise and appropriate $235,107 to operate the sewer department. That too is a board article.
If you don't know, Jen, the select board is the sewer commissioners in the town.
So someone will be giving me a crash course.
Good luck. We can describe what's
I can take 33 too, that's,
Okay. Article 34, raise and appropriate $329,574 to operate the ambulance department. I usually have the fire chief present that article. Article 35, transfer from ambulance retained earnings $30,000 for the purpose of funding the purchase of a cardiac monitor. That will be done by the fire chief. Our current cardiac monitor is starting to show its age, so we need to replace it for the ambulance, so.
So I can use it when required?
Well, we told that you don't want to use it.
No.
That's what you told me.
I got a DNR, I don't need it.
Article 36 is the individual departmental budgets. Those are usually presented by the Finance Committee. Article 37, transfer from capital needs stabilization fund, $120,800 for the purpose of reducing the funding from tax levy. This article is an annual article for all the capital equipment that was purchased through authorization by the Capital Improvement Committee. The capital needs stabilization fund is there for them to be able to use to purchase. When we borrow, we take the money that we borrow on an annual basis, take it out of the capital needs to fund that. So that's what this equals for FY20. And if you want, I can give you the list, Janet. I can forward you what vehicles.
that would be helpful, thank you.
Okay. Article 38, Vote to transfer from the bond premiums to be applied, $41,061.84, for the purpose of reducing the funding from tax levy for fiscal year 2020. And speaking with DOR at the end of last year, when we went out to borrow for the East Middle School roof, or not school, East Middle School, we got a bond premium of $209,000. According to DOR, what we were supposed to have been doing is taking that bond premium and amortizing it over the life of the loan. We weren't doing that. So this year, this $41,000 represents 3 years of that amortization schedule. It's about $13,000 a year, okay? To catch us up, so that what we have to raise through the tax override is reduced by the amount of this amount.
Okay.
Okay, so for this year, we had to raise, say, $800,000. We only have to really raise $760,000 against the taxpayers, because we're using this to reduce the amount that has to come from the taxpayers as the debt exclusion vote. It's a savings. And then Article 39 is to vote to us, huh?
Did you put a name with 37, 38?
Nope, none of them.
I didn't think so.
And 39 is to allow us to tax the homeowners in Granby.
Oh, I'm not doing 39. Sorry.
So I don't know who wants to do 37, 38, and 39.
I don't mind doing them. I might need some additional help when it comes to 38, because I'm sure there'll be questions.
Yep, that's okay.
Well, that's why he's going to help us with that stuff.
Well, I mean, besides that,
He's all.
Besides jail put a cattle prod underneath my chair. Make me have to stand up.
I didn't do it the last time.
You're close. All right.
Okay, the sewer commitment?
Okay, the sewer commitment is basically authorization to issue the semi-annual sewer bills. And this is requested by the collector in order for her to be able to issue the sewer bills. And this is for sewer use fee warrant number 19-2. It's in the amount of $113,378.02. And the board has to authorize her to be able to issue it. There's 3 copies of it. If you don't authorize, nobody has to pay their sewer bills.
Okay, do we have a motion to sign this sewer document, sewer commitment?
I'll make a motion that we approve and sign sewer use fee warrant number 19-2 for the town of Granby.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
Any further discussion? How many ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
I almost said yay.
I know, I'm back and forth. I'm trying to get it down.
No.
Before we go over to the approve and award the HCOG bid, just one question. Since we reorganized,
Oh, is there?
are we going to do anything with department liaisons tonight?
No, we'll do that next meeting, because then I'm looking at doing all the appointments
At the
next
same
meeting.
time?
Yeah,
So we're going to continue with our departments as is,
for now, yes.
and Jen will pick up the COA, and,
I don't know if she wants COA. She can make a choice.
well, I'm just saying, because Steve's not.
Maybe
you
she
know.
doesn't want COA.
I'm saying, because there's 2 departments that don't have a liaison right now.
Well, maybe she doesn't want COA.
Okay, well, maybe we'll do it. Or just trying to.
No, you are forcing something on someone, and they haven't had a chance to identify what they want to do yet.
Well, I'm just saying, Mr. Shinaki is not here, no, the liaison to him is gone.
Yeah, I did too.
Did I read it correctly?
No, I'm right here waiting for you. You were busy looking, so I didn't do anything.
Come on. Do you want to go through these two or not?
Yeah, might as well.
All right. Every year, at least up until through now, because we're not sure what's happening next year with the Council of Governments,
So they may not exist no more.
they annually go out and put out bids for the county for various type of products. We have to review and choose which of the bids we want to take and then notify the Hampshire COG of which ones we are going with. So the ones we have in front of you right now, I'm going to do the coal patch bid number 1211. First one is coal patch bid number 1211. It is for coal patch picked up per ton at the plant. We are recommending the purchase of the high-performance coal patch from Ondrick for $110, and the brand is Easy Street. Next one is for Peastone, Trap Rock, and Processed Gravel. We are going to be, I've gone over these with Dave DeRozier, so. First one is washed crushed stone, 1/2 inch, picked up at Delta for $10.40 per ton. Washed crushed stone, 3/4 inch, picked up at Delta, $10.65. Washed crushed stone, 1.5 inch, picked up, Delta, $11.80. Trap rock, 3/8 inch, picked up, $12.70 at the Amherst pit. That's with John S. Lane. Trap rock, 1/2 inch, picked up, $11.50 at the John S. Lane Amherst pit. Delivered to Granby, $16.15 from the John S. Lane Amherst pit. Trap rock, 3/4 inch, picked up, $12 from John S. Lane's Amherst pit. Delivered to Granby from John S. Lane, $16 from the John S. Lane Amherst pit. Trap rock, 1.5 inch, picked up from John S. Lane's Amherst pit, $11.70. Crushed gravel, 1.25 inch, picked up from Hathaway, $7.65. Crushed gravel, 1.5 inch, picked up from Hathaway, $7.55. TRG, RRG, picked up from Ondrick, $9.85. Delivered Granby from Ondrick, $12.75. Unwashed winter sand, picked up from Delta, $9.40. Unwashed sand, picked up from Delta, $9.40. And just so you know, Delta is out of Sunderland, Mass. Hathaway is out of West Hampton, Mass. And Ondrick is out of Chicopee, Mass. Do you want to go through them all? Or that's enough for that one.
Yeah.
So does the board want to award those bids as read?
I'll make a motion, we approve and award the HCOG bids as currently read by Chris Martin.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
Any more discussion on this article? Or item, excuse me? Having heard none, how many ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Okay, and the next bid is for, it's right below there, Jay. Next one down. You threw it away too quick.
Oh, that's it.
Next one is bid number 1212, hot mix asphalt. For applied in place per ton, we are going to do Palmer at $61.15. Handiwork applied in place per ton, $110. Raising of castings per casting, $200. Berm applied in place per linear foot, $3. Tack coat applied per gallon, $3.10. For hot mix asphalt picked up price, we are doing Eurovia at $62 a ton. Hot in-place asphalt recycling, both option A, without maintenance and protection of traffic, $5.08. For option B, with maintenance and protection of traffic, $5.16, and this is with Highway Rehabilitation Corp. Stone seal, 20% rubberized stone seal applied in place, one coat. This is per square yard, $4.68 with all states asphalt. Liquid asphalt. For Granby, we are going to award it to Comer, which is $5.25 per gallon. Just so that you know, the liquid asphalt, this is the stuff we get to put into the hot patch Durapatcher that we got for the cracks.
Yeah.
And he's currently using Comer, and he likes the way it works.
Okay.
So, because if you notice, Allstate's was a little cheaper, but David likes Comer. It's worked well since we got the Durapatcher. Full depth pavement reclamation. This is with a vibratory compaction. Dave wants to do Murray paving at 83 cents a square yard. Then we have bituminous concrete excavation by a cold planer milling. There's 3 versions here. First one, and this is per square yard. Hauling away and legal disposal of plain materials off-site. Material becomes the property of the contractor. All of these are with Eurovia Atlantic, and it's $1.40 per square yard. Option B, hauling of the plain material to a location within town limits as determined by the highway superintendent. Material remains the property of the town, $1.40 per square yard. Option C, loading of plain material onto dump trucks provided by the town. Town will bring the material to a place of its choosing. Material remains property of the town, $1.20 per square yard.
I'll make a motion, we approve and award the HCOG bids as read by Chris Martin.
Second Glenn's motion.
Any further discussion on this item? Okay, how many ayes?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
And there's one other thing that came in today, or was finalized today, was those 61A requests that we had received. Do you want to do the folder, Jay, or do you want me to go through it? It's up to you.
I can do it, because I had a question or a statement I wanted to get.
As the board recalls, but Jen, you wouldn't recall it because you weren't on the board. We had forwarded this to we have a land review committee made up of a Board of Selectmen rep, a Conservation Commission member, and a planning board member. When someone wants to take a property out of 61A,
Town gets first refusal.
we have the right of first refusal, and so we send it to this group to see if it's something we want to exercise. Right. We also have some people who want to give us land. They don't want to pay taxes on it, it's landlocked, it's no good to them. They all moved out, they don't want to have to keep paying taxes to the town. We also send those to this committee to review whether or not the town wants to purchase or accept the donation. Because if it comes we accept the donation, goes off the tax rolls again, tax impact, so on and so forth down the line, so.
Okay, you are hereby notified that the town of Granby has been duly notified in writing in accordance with the provisions of section 14 of chapter 61A of the Massachusetts General Laws of your intention to sell land that is currently valued, assessed, and taxed on the basis of its agricultural or horticultural use pursuant to said 61A, and the said land more particularly described as follows: on Morgan Street property, it's tax parcel 5-B-3.2, and East Street property, tax parcel 5-B-4. When I reviewed this one, I looked at the maps, and this is landlocked land. When I was on the planning board, didn't we have to have frontage or we did an A&R or something to do? I mean, this is over and done with now, but if the town has the first right of refusal, and we wanted to buy this, we couldn't get in there.
Unless there's an easement somewhere.
Not to my, I know initially I was in part 1 of Dickinson's, I wasn't in part 2. I remember part 1, they were coming in on Morgan Street, but from looking at these new drawings from that A&R, they have one here and 61A in the middle, and I don't know if the town wanted to buy it, how we could actually get into it. So I mean, I think that's something we should look at for the future, that if we're doing 61A land, we gotta have a way to get into it. Otherwise, the town loses some of its options on the purchasing of it.
Well, it would be up to the town to negotiate a right-of-way to get into it.
Either that, or we have to, I believe there's something in the bylaws, because we have existing residential estate lots, which calls for 40 feet. Under the planning board, they propose new residential estate lots up to 5, and business lots up to 5, with a 40-foot frontage. I would believe that we should have frontage on all of them. That if we're doing the, dividing up the lots now. Again, Glenn is more current than I am, but
Is there an old county road that goes down through those, by chance?
not to my knowledge, but again, that's way before my time.
Jay, you're saying this property here is landlocked?
Yes. Dickinson's Farm owns all around
Which
it,
one is it, Glenn?
when I looked at the maps.
I can tell you in a heartbeat.
That's why I'm saying that if the town wanted to buy it, we couldn't get to it if we wanted to.
Morgan Street.
And when I did the evaluation of it, the Dickinson people are going to receive $60,000 a year for leasing the land. And under its current assessed value, if we were to buy it for it, we could own that land in less than 5 years and get 15 years of revenue off it, if the town exercised it. But since we can't get to it, there's nothing we can do with it.
Well, why wasn't that part of the report?
The drawings came in from the planning board and they were approved that way.
No, this goes out whether or not we should purchase the property or not. There's a committee that tells us whether they think we should purchase the property or not purchase the property.
Their report is the first
Right.
page.
The first page.
Keep going back.
What is their recommendation
No, not to buy it.
on that? Yeah.
No, they didn't say anything about that. I just was curious about that myself, so I just looked it up.
But it says right here, the property is landlocked.
Oh, okay. Then I missed it on when I read that.
So they're recommending that we don't purchase it, so based on what the recommendation is.
I'm not saying we should purchase it, but I'm just saying if we're going to be taking 61A land and redesignating something else, the town should have a way to access it, is what I'm saying.
Well, right, but this particular piece of property, this land, they're recommending that the town does not purchase it because it is landlocked, so.
Right, but when the A&R was done on it, they should have required it to have frontage, is all I'm trying to get at, just like we do on state lots. That's all I'm trying to say.
They may have access off their property already. They may have access to that
Well,
property.
they do, because they have 300.
Right, so what they're saying is that it may not be split up. They're splitting it up to say that the town, if the town wants it. They have access already from their property, which is my understanding from this.
It's in the middle of their property.
Right, but the access to that is from their property.
Oh, I agree with you.
So that's what they're saying. They want it, so that,
I'm saying-
again, they're recommending that we do not purchase the property because it's landlocked.
Right, and all I'm saying is if somebody comes in to do an A&R or something on property, they should have some kind of frontage or something.
Jay, I don't know what you're talking about. I can't speak to what something on that without actually looking at it, so.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm just saying that there's no way to get to this property from a public way, is what I'm saying. And yes, the way it's written up, I agree that we should not buy it. But I'm saying, if we get these in the future, I mean, people can put a 5-foot strip around all their property of 61A land, and then the town would lose their right of first refusal. Well, they wouldn't lose it, they just couldn't access it.
Then it's up to the town to negotiate a right-of-way to get to that.
Right.
Okay.
And that will cost you more money, that's all.
Okay,
That's all that's gonna happen.
okay, well, I thought I read.
And to be honest with you, Jay, for all I know, they could have negotiated a right-of-way with this other company who they want to sell it to.
Right.
You know, I don't know. That's what we don't know.
I don't know. I just thought when we subdivided or we A&R'd property, we always gave it a frontage, is what I'm trying to say.
That's a planning board issue. I wouldn't know that.
I know, well, I'm just saying when I used to be there, and that's why I was asking the question.
I wouldn't know that. Sorry. Well, do you want to send a letter to the planning board asking the question?
I just don't know.
How long do we have to exercise, Kathy, on this one?
120 days. I believe it was April 29th, 24th. It's on the top of the days that
April, May, June. Yeah,
that they hand delivered.
if you want, you can hold off and send a letter to the planning board. That's up to you, Jay, what you want to do.
Well, it's up to everybody involved. I'm just making a statement. If they're,
But how does that, what does that have to do with this year?
I'm just saying, when we either subdivide or we do an A&R on a property, shouldn't it have frontage, just like we do on
Okay.
the estate lot? That's all I'm saying.
That is the planning board. I'm talking about this here. What are we going to do with this?
We're going to have to go with the recommendation if it's landlocked.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. But I just brought up a question that if this is the way it's going to be done from now on all 61A land, the town would never have access to any of it. That's all I'm stating. If it's going to be done this way.
Well, it's not saying it's always done that way. And
No.
again, I can't speak to this without actually looking at the particulars. But right, there could be a right of access, because that happens with other properties too, where someone's property might be behind someone else's property, but they give a right of access to it.
Right. I understand that, but I didn't see it on it.
Well, no, that's why they probably recommended why we should not purchase the property.
But I'm just saying, when I was on the initial Dickinson's Farm one, there was an access from Morgan Street into the solar farm, is all I'm saying. Because it was right next to Joan's house. And they started putting stakes down there in the wrong location, because she came in and complained, why are they putting stakes on my lawn? So we had to get them to move them to the right place.
Right.
That's why this popped up to me, because of the other things that preceded it. And then when I looked at it and it says it's landlocked, well, what good is the town buying landlocked land?
Well, it's not. That's why they recommend not purchase it.
I agree with that. But what I'm saying, if this is going to become, for all 61A land, if they're going to make it all landlocked, the town would never,
Who was making it all landlocked?
if the planning board approves all this.
Jay, this is one particular item that came up, and
I'm just asking a question.
I know you're asking the question, but I'm just saying this is one particular item that came up, and the committee has
Our committee,
Our committee has said no, they recommend that we do not purchase the property
Because
based on it's landlocked.
that's correct.
There's other property in town that is landlocked,
Yes.
that doesn't have access except for the people that actually, there's other parcels, and there's someone that wanted to donate property to the town 6, 7 months ago, which was landlocked
Right.
already.
Was
And that's the
not-
other one they said no to because it's landlocked.
Right.
Right, the one we said to go to McDuffie, because they were a butter.
But what I'm asking, does the board, to address Jay's concern,
Yeah.
address this now? Say, no, we don't want it based upon the recommendation. However, send a letter to the planning board asking, is it normally allowed to have a right-of-way of access to a piece of land?
That's all I'm trying to ask.
Right. Well, usually it is. That's what they look
Right,
for.
but
as
all
far
I'm
as that.
saying is I think he just wants to get a response back from the planning board that says, this is the exception, this isn't the rule, type of thing.
That's fine.
That's all I was bringing up on it. But this one is landlocked, and we can't use it, and it's a done deal.
So, Jay,
Yeah.
or the board, do you want us to send a letter to the planning board asking that question?
You want a motion, or you just want?
I guess I'm now confused as to what the actual question is. I'm sorry.
What's
There were so
happening
many
here
things.
is...
It's landlocked, I get that.
Right.
Jay, are you asking, is it common practice for us to even think about purchasing a property that's landlocked?
No. Glenn and I both were on the planning board before, and they had everything that when we subdivided, or we did an A&R, and always had a certain amount of frontage so that people could gain access to their property.
Okay.
Whether it was 40 feet for an estate lot, 100 feet for a residential property, or 150 feet for a commercial property.
Okay.
That was the standard. We had to make sure they always had frontage. So when this one popped up in front of me,
It doesn't. No, because I could sell a portion of my land to my neighbor.
right,
And so that section is sectioned off as part of the land to him. He could turn around and say, you know what, I don't want that section of land anymore. I want to see if the town wants it. That doesn't have access to it, the only person, and he'd have to give the right-of-way access to it. That's the same thing that's just saying here. So
Well,
if
yes,
that happened saying that they'd give the right-of-way, most of the time when an A&R comes up, you'll see that there's they give a right-of-way. If someone's property may be behind someone else's property, it's in there. A&R, we were going to prove it. As you said, an estate lot, we have 40 feet of frontage. Based on the 40 feet, we can approve it. The estate lot, there's access to the back house or wherever it may be.
we've done that on those common driveways before.
I just think this particular piece here, it's still their property. They're sectioning it off saying they don't want it. So if to pursue that, the town would have to say, can we have access, a right-of-way to that property?
But I think you know what I'm driving at.
I know what you're saying.
What Jay is trying to say, Jim, in my understanding, is that, is it common practice to take a piece of landlocked land out of 61A to be able to sell it to a solar farm, for use of a solar farm, and you make it landlocked so the town will not exercise its right-of-way, or right of first refusal,
Now I understand.
because there is no way to get to the property from the current property owner. That's
Yeah.
what he's trying to say.
Okay, now I understand your
So,
question.
They're getting a tax reduction. They're only paying 25% of the tax rate by having Chapter 61.
Right, I'm familiar with 61A.
Okay, and then all of a sudden, when they decide to do something with it, I don't care if it's business, recreation, residential, or whatever, what's on it, and the town has a first refusal, how can you exercise it if you can't get to it? That's all I'm trying to say. So the town would automatically never buy anything because they can never access anything.
Okay, and I'm sorry because I'm new to this. Were they looking to do this because they wanted to sell the property?
No, they're leasing the property out.
What they're doing is they're taking it out of a reduced tax status so they can put the solar field on there.
Okay, so they had intended to put the solar field in that spot.
Not originally, but it changed. Originally, it was coming in off of Morgan Street, because when I was involved the first time, then they came back and they did a second time with it, put different equipment and stuff, and I wasn't on the planning board for the second time. I was on it for the first time. That's why I remember, because I was there, because it was coming, the access road was off of Morgan Street next to Jones' house on Morgan Street.
Okay.
So there was a defined access into the solar field.
I think what they did, they switched from a fixed array to a tracking array.
Yeah, rotating.
Okay. And it's better to have the tracking array farther out in the field than up close to the Morgan Street site.
Okay. I think I understand.
But
I
it's
get
still,
this now.
there's still access to that because it's through their property. Even before, it's still, even though it's off Morgan Street, it's still off their property.
I agree, Glenn, but they probably have another agreement with them for a right-of-way through their property that the town may not have if we exercise our option, which means we would have to negotiate a right-of-way or do a taking at whatever cost it would be to do the taking.
Right, there's options to the town if the town wishes to pursue it.
Yes.
Right. It's not like it's over and done with.
No, but it would just be an additional cost factor
Right.
that is unknown at this point in time.
But I'm just not trying to think back to the bylaws for zoning, that I thought any of the pieces like that that were put into residential had to have a certain amount of frontage. This is no longer agricultural. This is residential, so it should have 100 foot of frontage.
It's still, it's not residential yet.
Yeah. You
No,
take it out of 61A.
They want to take it out of 61A.
Yeah, it becomes residential with no frontage.
Has it been taken out of 61A yet? No. It hasn't been taken out of 61A yet, so it's still agricultural.
It's still agricultural today. But we have to make a decision for the town if the town would like to buy it. And it's going to be residential property. The bylaws, to my knowledge, say residential requires 100 foot of frontage.
So when it comes to that, then that'll be addressed. If it doesn't, if it fits the requirements, then it fits the requirements. If it doesn't, then that'll be addressed. There might be when they decide, or if they decide to take it out of 61A, they will have to say this particular people, or whoever they want to, whatever they're doing, if they're selling it to someone or whatever, they have to have a right of way for them to get to that property.
Right, but then the town would have lost its first right of refusal by then. That's what all I'm trying to say.
I understand that, Jay, but right now, it's not residential property.
They're asking to take it out of 61A and make it residential.
They're asking for right of refusal if we want to purchase it or not. This isn't us signing off whether or not we're taking it out of 61A.
That one's a done deal. I'll do some more research on future ones.
I understand exactly what you're saying.
So do you want to make a motion to agree on the Dickinson Farm one?
All right, I'll make a motion that the town will not exercise its option under Mass General Laws, Chapter 61, to purchase property at Assessor Parcel 5B-3.2.
And there's two parcels.
And East Street property, partial 5-B-4.
Right.
Deed book, page 585, page 291. And deed book 585, page 289. And page, book 2464, page 60. And then deed plan, registered deeds plan book 127, page 100.
Mhm.
We done now?
That's all, yes.
So we got 3 copies. so.
Yep.
I'll
That's the
second
motion.
Glenn's motion.
Okay, any more discussion on this one? No more discussion? How many ayes?
Aye.
It's unanimous? Yeah, I gotta sign more places.
Send that back to you for now.
Okay,
Where's that?
that's gonna go to Jennifer.
This is the one I'm going to send back to you first.
Thank you. I gotta do 2 of them, right?
No, you already did this one.
Okay,
That's the
Yeah, Glenn
second
saw
copy.
Yeah, I'm holding on to it. Jen signs that one.
okay. So by what you're telling me, and I'll do my research on it, the one that gets reclassified as residential, it's gonna come under frontage.
Or they can be given the right of way.
But something's gonna happen, is what you're saying.
Right, which a lot of people that say a family owns a property and they give the property to son or daughter or whatever in the back of their property, they give them a right of way, then it becomes a building lot. Or it becomes a lot, whether or not they can build on it is.
I just don't want the town to lose its first right of refusal hypothetically on all these 61A lands that'll be changed to something. Everybody put a 5-foot border around the land and make it landlocked and the town can't get in. And the town has lost all the tax revenue over the years for the reduction. And if you buy it, you're landlocked.
Well, actually, the town is going to profit from this, not lose.
Well, if you read this map, there is a permanent easement.
I missed it.
You see this thing right here? It says permanent access and utility easement.
There you go.
And it goes between both properties.
So it's deeded that way.
If I read that correct.
Because see, I was looking at this and this. There'd be the 2 plots.
Well, you didn't look far enough, did you?
I know more about that than you. Okay, we got another one here. You are hereby notified that the town of Granby has been duly notified in writing in accordance with the provisions of Section 14 of Chapter 61A of the Massachusetts General Laws of your intention to sell land that is currently valued, assessed, and taxed on the basis of its agricultural or horticultural use pursuant to said Chapter 61A land, and that said land more particularly described as from Raymond J. McKenzie and Shirley R. McKenzie intend to convert to a residential use the property on Taylor Street, parcel A2, Lot E, I'm not going to read the square footage, Lot F, and it's a total of 1.5449 acres, all 3 of which are shown on the enclosed survey with subdivision approval not required. Plan of land in Granby prepared by Raymond and Shirley McKenzie. Want to review it? That's that one on Taylor Street, I think Alan
Katowitz.
remember, he was taking chunks off at a time. As people want to buy them, they get a big hunk, they take it off to 61A land and they just have a house on it.
Chris, what's going back, the town receiving because they're taking that out of 61A? What's the amount for the one we just did?
On this one?
Yeah.
What, the assessed value?
No, the amount, because they gotta pay back taxes.
Yeah, for 5 years.
I want to see what the town received.
This one, it's a total of, make sure, $3,686.95.
It's peanuts. That's why I said, if the town had access to that land, and they decided to buy it themselves, for what they're getting, the town could buy it, and the payback is less than 5 years. So then we get 14 or 15 plus years of revenue to the town.
What are we gonna be doing with it?
We'll just renegotiate with the solar developer, that's all. That's what the other towns are doing. They're buying it up and renegotiating with the solar developers.
So they're taking property away from the homeowners and using it to their benefit.
It's no different than the homeowners using agricultural to their benefit.
Well, it's their land.
That's right, it is their land, but then they get the tax break. Then because of the tax break, the town gets the first right of refusal.
Yeah, that I know. Okay. All right, I'll make a motion that we, the town of Granby will not exercise its option to purchase property under Mass General Law, Chapter 61, Parcel A2, Lot E, and as 1.469 acres, and Lot F, which is 1.5449 acres. And, I'm sorry, I missed here, Lot E, which is again 1.4690 acres. It's revised parcel plan book 243, page 120. Assessor's map 6A, lot 4.17. And it's again in book 4826, page 123 for the Hampshire County Register of Deeds.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
Any more discussion on that lot? Hearing no more discussion, how many ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Thank you. Hope you guys missed that page.
I just want you to sign it first.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No, you got one more piece of property.
Okay.
Remember the one that they wanted to donate to us?
Oh, yeah, that one that's, we said go to McDuffie's?
Yes.
Okay. This is the one here?
Yes.
Okay. Want to read the whole letter?
No.
Okay. In Reader's Digest version, this is landlocked land. It does butt McDuffie's. The people here don't want to pay taxes no more on the landlocked land.
Is that off of Maximilian?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So what they want to do is donate it to the town. The committee that we have recommended not purchasing because it's landlocked and wouldn't do the town any good. And when they mentioned it before, I says, it's right adjacent to McDuffie's. They could go to them, and McDuffie's would probably take it off their hands, and then they wouldn't pay taxes. But that's between them and McDuffie's. It's just the town's doesn't want to take this in lieu of taxes. So, do you want a motion to reject that?
To deny the request.
Deny the request.
Or deny the offer.
Deny the offer.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request of Lorelei Euler of 1773 Wildlife Road, White River Junction, Vermont, of donating property as described, which is the east side of Maximilian Drive, which is currently the property is landlocked, as noted. It's on Assessor's Map number 14. That's all the information we have.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
Any more discussion on this item? Hearing no discussion, how many ayes to deny it?
Aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous, so the board denies the request to accept the land. Put it in your folder.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Chris?
I don't have anything.
There's only one question that I have. It's back to that correspondence on that grant for the housing. Do we want to send it to somebody to make out applications for that? Or what committee does that? Does Granby have
For what?
for housing and stuff, for affordable housing?
Affordable housing is usually, in Granby, it's done through the Housing Authority.
Okay. Do we want to let them know about the grant that's available or not? And let them decide if they want to do it?
I guess you can. We can
Yeah.
forward it to them.
Yeah, because I mean, if they want to do it, because one of the big things that's coming forward is the more grant money we can get, and housing is on it, because the administration with the 5 colleges in this area, they don't understand, or that the manufacturers and businesses have come in and explained to the Baker-Polito administration that they won't put businesses here, manufacturing type businesses, because they have the workforce, they have the skills, but they have nowhere for them to live. There's no affordable housing
Affordable housing.
coming out. So that's why the Baker-Polito administration is putting out this grant money to do the studies, doing the design and all that other stuff to make more affordable housing. But there is criteria that you have to go through, and some of that's coming out through grant money to see what the town currently has and what the town would currently have to do to qualify for that.
Well, that's something that can be pushed off, to present to the Housing Authority, and they can decide whether they want to put a committee together or not.
But that's what I'm saying. Make them aware of it. Because if they're not aware of it, they're not going to do anything with it. Just like if the Energy Committee is not aware of any energy grants, they wouldn't apply.
Yeah.
That's all I meant by it.
Anything else?
Nothing else for me. Chris got nothing? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second Glenn's motion.
And no more discussion? Aye.
Aye.
Aye.